26. Early the next morning, the three Jōnin of the Ishida family and the head accountant of the Ishida family gathered in the house of the head of the Ishida family. Father, I have already been wanted. With the current financial resources of our Ishida family, it is difficult to maintain a normal operation. If we equip all the clan members with top-level ninjas, it may be difficult. The head accountant is a branch housewoman named Ishida Xinkai, is the daughter of Ishida's friend. Although she is a woman, she manages Ishida's family in an orderly manner in terms of accounts, and records every expenditure clearly. Although Ishida Xinkai's family is divided into main family and branch house, it is not completely separated like the Hyuga family. Instead, the eldest son of each family enters the clan, while the rest are all in the branch house. For example, the previous head of the Ishida family and Ishida Sorikari are brothers, and the eldest son of Ishida Sorikari is the only friend of Ishida's friend and the previous head. The son Ishida Maimong, they are all members of the clan, but Ishida's friends and other brothers and sisters of Ishida Maimong will be assigned to the branch house, which is also to ensure the unity among all offspring. As for the position of head of the family, anyone with ability can be the head of the family, and has nothing to do with the clan or branch house. Speaking of which, the Ishida family now has only the father and son of Ishida Sora and Ishida Maimon, and the next generation is still underage, so they are all raised in the branch house. For Ishida Xinkai, the Ishida family does not have any special bloodline boundaries, and there is nothing to ensure the purity of the bloodline. Anyway, they are all their own children, so there is no reason to lose sight of one or the other. Ishida Zygote's words made the hearts of those present sink. They didn't expect that the Ishida family, which was a rich family in the past, would have fallen into such a situation. However, Ishida Sakari already had a plan, and he raised his head to look at Ishida Yuto and Ishida Maimong. What the ancestor said yesterday, you should also understand that as long as there is a shrine, he can help us, so I think we have to arrange it, Ishida Sorikari said to the two with a serious face. Ishida Yongdu is an old fritter, and immediately understood the idea of the owner. Last night, the army commander of Tianjigua wanted to lead people to attack our Ishida's house, but was stopped by our people outside. The army leader is now in the dungeon of Ishida's house. Ishida Yuto pondered for a moment, then said, now that the Ishida family is rising, it is necessary to build momentum, and the daimyo mansion in the country of Tianji has already become an outrage among the various ninja families in the country. Many of the nobles are also worried because they are involved with the ninja family. If we take advantage of the trend to overthrow the daiming mansion, must be able to get the support of all ethnic groups in the Tianji kingdom. Coupled with the blessing of the ancestors, it is not impossible to replace the daiming prefecture and directly transform the country of Tian into the clan country of the Ishida family. Ishida Yongdu said a lot in one breath, and Ishida Maimong and Ishida Zygoko's eyes lit up when he said it directly. And Ishida Xinkai was sitting next to him, nodding his head constantly, worthy of his deliberate guidance. These guys can be considered to understand their own thoughts. Ishida Xinkai is very clear that he has a cheat. As long as he has a huge incense value to support him, he is an omnipotent existence, and if he can create an eternal ancestral spirit at that time, even if Otsutsuki Kagaya is in front of him, he will not be afraid at all. Cowardly. The huge value of incense requires the support of a huge population, and the Ishida family's outward development is imminent. Moreover, if the Ishida family cannot become strong, the Ishida family will definitely not be given a chance to grow when the 5 major countries finish their work. This is not just Ishida Xinkai, everyone present is very clear. Especially the person who guessed that the person who attacked him last time was probably the Fire Nation. Ishida Sorikari understands the importance of being strong even more. So, I plan to use Sinong City as the first step in the outward expansion of my Ishida family. Glancing at the three of them, Ishida Sakari took out a map from his pocket, which was the map of Tanakuni. Although Ishida Sakari pointed at Sinong City, the capital city of Tanakuni, which is 100 kilometers away from Sinong City, had already been destroyed. She marked it with a pin. Obviously, he had already planned to annex all the families in the entire Tianji kingdom. Patriarch, you just need to set a time. And Yongdu promises to win Sinong City within a day. Ishida Yongdu saw that Ishida Sakari had already made a plan, and his face was overjoyed, and he said quickly. Ishida Sorikari nodded, then looked at Ishida Maim. I want the two of you to bring the ninjas of the family and go to Sinong City today. Before sunset, you must capture it. In addition, you bring the army leader in the dungeon with you. Ishida Sorikari said to the two seriously. The idiot army commander? Ishida Yuto was stunned for a moment, not understanding what Ishida Sakari meant. Ishida Xinkai next to him knew why this guy did this. That guy is Armijang after all. Almost all the warriors in Sinong City are under his command. If he can incite against him, he can continue to maintain the order in Sinong City. After congratulating Sinong City, Ishida Xinkai said leisurely to himself, after all, Ishida's family is really small, so it is impossible to take care of the city. What they want is direct control, and the management of the city should be left to the professionals. People. This point agrees with Ishida Xinkai's thinking, because only if the people of Tianji country live a comfortable life, they will sincerely participate in the shrine of Ishida's family, and he can also maximize his benefits. After all, if there are wars everywhere, who has the time to worship themselves? I will instigate him. As the Sergeant Major of Sinan City, Lubian Ichiro, if he can submit to our Ishida family, then it will be more convenient for us to control Sinan City. Sure enough, Ishida Sorikari immediately explained to everyone that although he was devoting himself to cultivation, he had more or less been taught by Ishida Xinkai after all, not to mention everything, but he still understood a little. 27. After coming out of the living room, Ishida Sakari went directly to the dungeon of Ishida's house. After a night of torment, Zhang, the army officer of Sinong City, looked extremely haggard at the moment. Although Ishida Xinkai is the army commander of Icheng, but because Ishida Xinkai has been guarding Tianjigua before, there is no war at all. Even if Ishida Xinkai dies later, because Tianjigua was not involved in the last war between countries, so Tianjigua has always been relatively stable, and it can even be said that the generation of the army commander grew up in the greenhouse, and the road went smoothly. How could they have experienced such a thing? Seeing Ishida Kongsho approaching, the army's eyes were still bloodshot. Although he didn't speak, Ishida Sorikari felt the desire to go out from the other's eyes. I can let you out. Ishida Konkari spoke out first, and said to the commander of the Sinong army who had become a prisoner. As the head of the Ishida family, he knew the army commander. The other party was named Taro Kitano, and he was more tactful. The two had some exchanges. What? Hearing what Ishida Sorikari said, Kitano Taro was obviously taken aback, and looked at Ishida Sorikari in surprise, thinking he had heard it wrong. There is a condition for letting you out. I need your allegiance to the Ishida family. Ishida Sorikari continued. Allegiance? Me? Is your Ishida family so short of people? Kitano Taro looked at Ishida Sora with doubts, and then said with a wry smile. He only thought that Ishida Sora was joking about himself. After all, the Ishida family has 2 Jōnin now, with so many ninja families who have taken refuge in him. How could he look up to an ordinary samurai? Of course I don't like your strength, but I need you to replace the Ishida family as the lord of Sinong City. Ishida Sorikari smiled, and then said lightly. Ishida Sorikari's words were very flat, like a joke, but this time it was different when it came to Kitano Taro's ears. What? As he digested Ishida Sorikari's words, Kitano Taro's eyes were filled with disbelief. There is simply too much information in that sentence. You took Sinong City? You are rebelling. It's rebellion. Kitano Taro looked at Ishida Sora in disbelief, his eyes filled with horror. Not yet, but after today, Sinong City should belong to Ishida's family. How about it? Are you going out to rebel with us, or staying here? Ishida Sorikari said with a smile that Kitano Taro did not do anything to persecute Ishida's family, and the other party is relatively smooth, so it should be the most suitable person to manage Shinongcheng under the supervision of Ishida's family. Of course, just being the right candidate doesn't mean the only one. If the other party is unwilling, then of course he will kill the other party. Hearing Ishida Sora's words, Kitano Taro's expression changed suddenly, and he looked at Ishida Sorikari again, as if he was meeting him for the first time. Then Kitano Taro gritted his teeth, as if hesitating. He knew very well that once he agreed to the other party, he would also be a part of the rebellion. If the Ishida family was defeated, he would be executed by Tanakuni. But if the Ishida family can really overthrow Tanakuni, then his status as a loyalist of the Ishida family will naturally rise accordingly. But if he disagrees, he may not survive tomorrow. Kitaro Kitano met the patriarch. Taking a deep breath, Kitano Taro turned respectful and said to Ishida Sorikari, Okay, have the guts to go out and visit the ancestors of my Ishida family. You will become a member of the Ishida family in the future. Your every move will be monitored by the ancestors of the Ishida family. Ishida Sorikari grinned and spoke quickly. Immediately afterwards, Ishida Sorikari's eyes turned blood-colored, his left pupil shrank suddenly, and he used the life marker to quickly engrave and record all the aura and characteristics of Kitano Taro. Even the blood aura was recorded. If you dare to betray the Ishida family, even if you escape to the end of the sky, I can find you, even your blood, and I will not let you go. After imprinting the opponent's information, Ishida Sorikari continued. And Ishida Xinkai, who was following behind, was nodding and satisfied, but his face suddenly collapsed. This kid really thinks that his ancestors are omnipotent. But as long as the Ishida family wins Sinong City, he can indeed judge the degree of this guy's aggression against the Ishida family based on the degree of belief in Kitano Taro. After all, as a servant of the Ishida family, he has to visit the ancestors of the Ishida family every day. The ancestor of the Ishida family? Listening to Ishida Sorikari's words, Kitano Taro was taken aback and then showed a thoughtful expression. Although he didn't know what happened outside last night, he had been following the changes of the Ishida family in Sinong City all this time. The head of the Ishida family, who was seriously injured and dying, suddenly woke up and recovered, and then the Ishida family didn't know what happened. One more Jōnin, and it's also weird. However, it is definitely impossible for him to think that the ancestors of the Ishida family will be resurrected, and he only treats Ishida Sora's words as half-truths and half-false. He believed that Ishida Sora would send someone to monitor him, and as for the ancestor, it was just a cover. Although he agrees that the ancestor of the Ishida family was a legendary figure during his lifetime, but death is like a lamp being extinguished, so even if you keep a backup, who can guarantee that it will be useful? And Ishida Xinkai saw the other party's thoughts, but he didn't point it out. This guy will understand when he wins Sinong City. It was already 2 hours after Ishida Sakari took Kitano Taro to visit the shrine. Then the Ishida family conquest team headed by Ishida Yuto took Kitano Taro towards the direction of Shinong Castle. Although there are only more than 50 people including Ichiro Kitano, it is a force that is enough to overthrow Tanakuni. 28. Sinong City. As in the past, the people were busy with their own affairs. Hunters or farmers in various towns who wanted to come to buy some spices and necessities were obediently queuing up and waiting to enter the city. How do you feel that there are many more warriors defending the city today than last time? An Orion was driving an ox cart, looked at the heavily armed warriors on the city wall, and there was only a path for a car to pass through the city gate, and suddenly said with some surprise, "Who knows? These guys know they want money, and now they're probably thinking about how to ask us to pay more for entering the city." A wiser villager next to him frowned and said dissatisfiedly that he was often exploited by the soldiers defending the city when he entered the city. "Oh, shoo. Be careful. This is not our small mountain village." The companion's words immediately startled Orion and said in a low voice, "Such scenes are happening in many places, but let alone ordinary people. Even the soldiers guarding the city don't know." At this moment, in the Lord's mansion, Tian Zhoming was pacing back and forth in the answering room, looking very anxious on his face. "Mr. Langtai, why is this happening? Didn't you say that there will be killers attacking Ishida's house? Why is this happening?" Tian Zhoming's face was full of impatience, and he asked Tanaka Langtai a little bit apologetically. "It's useless to say these things now. The people asking for help have already been sent out. As long as they survive for a day, the daimyo will definitely send reinforcements." Tanaka Langtai was also full of embarrassment at the moment, glanced at Tian Zhoming, and immediately said impatiently, he already regretted getting involved with the Ishida's family. He didn't expect the Ishida's family to be so weird that even the people in the underground money exchange couldn't handle them. It made him dare not leave now, for fear that the Ishida family would be waiting for him outside the city, so he could only stay here and wait for the reinforcements from the Daming Mansion. "As long as we can pass today, then we will have no problems. I have already asked Daimyo to ask for help from the Fire Nation." Taking a deep breath, Tanaka Langtai continued, "Today? That should be fine." Tanaka Ming nodded when he heard Tanaka Langtai's words, and then hope was ignited in his eyes. "Master Yongdu, Lord Maimong, Sinong City is ahead, and it looks like the city has stepped up its security. Here, a group of people are already looking at the 7 or 8-meter high city wall in the distance. The warriors above are holding strong bows, as if they are waiting for them," Kitano Taro said solemnly. "Kill them all." Ishida Maimong looked at those warriors. His eyes were full of anger. He dared to hinder the development of Ishida's family, and all obstacles to reappearing the glory of his ancestors and his Ishida's family must be completely removed. Everyone's heart moved when they heard it, but they didn't refuse. "Wait a minute first. This is," Kitano Taro suddenly said. Looking at those former subordinates, he didn't want those people to do some fearless things for nothing. "Let me talk about it first. After all, we still need people to maintain the order in Sinong City. If not, we can directly attack the city." Kitano Taro changed his usual tact and said with a serious face, "The warriors on the city wall are all his subordinates. He wants to save them, but if the other party doesn't want to listen to him, then he doesn't feel bad about killing them. Now he and the Ishida family are like grasshoppers on the same rope, and he even has a feeling that there is really a power watching him in the dark. Once he has 2 hearts, he will be discovered, so he can only consider yourself part of the Ishida family. Everyone has no objection to Kitano Taro's words. Who? The servants of the Ishida family came in a mighty force of more than 50, and all of them were embroidered with the family crest of the Ishida family. As soon as they appeared, the city gate was put on high alert, and those villagers who lined up quickly backed away, looking nervously at the people on both sides, for fear that they would be hurt. Me, Kitano Taro. Everyone stopped. Kitano Taro came out and said loudly, "It's Kitano-sama." Seeing the figure of Kitano Taro, the soldiers guarding the city were suddenly in a commotion. "Taro Kitano, why are you with the Ishida family?" At this time, Kitano Taro's adjutant suddenly came out and asked Kitano Taro sternly, "I am now a servant of the Ishida family, brothers. If more than 50 ninjas come from the Ishida family, in order to avoid fearless sacrifice, I hope you can give up resistance." Kitano Taro didn't hide it. After all, he was with the Ishida family, and they wouldn't believe anything they said. What? Hearing Kitano Taro's words, the samurai were suddenly commotioned. Ha ha ha. Well, Kitano Taro, you actually betrayed the country and joined the Ishida family. You should kill yourself by harakiri. Hearing Kitano Taro's words, the former deputy of Kitano Taro was overjoyed and immediately said loudly, after Kitano Taro was captured, he became the army commander of Sanan City, and now he naturally does not want Kitano Taro to come back. Even in order to prevent Kitano Taro from coming back, he deliberately replaced all the samurai guarding the city with his cronies. Attack! They are all enemies. Shoot arrows immediately. In order to avoid accidents, Nana's adjutant decided to kill Kitano Taro, who came back first. Hearing the adjutant's order, the warriors quickly drew the bowstrings at their fingertips without the slightest hesitation. Put! Whoosh! Whoosh! Following the adjutant's order, arrows rained out from the city wall, densely packed, like wasps passing through the border, completely ignoring the innocent people below. It seems that your subordinates are not afraid of death. Looking at Kitano Taro, Ishida Meimong sneered. Kitano Taro's face changed. He knew what Ishida Meimong was going to do, and he looked a little lonely, but he could only nod regretfully. Ishida Meimong quickly made 2 fingerprints. For the glory of Ishida's family, he didn't care about the lives of these warriors. Wood-style birth of the tree realm. With a low cry, Ishida Meimong used the wood-style ninjutsu that Ishida Xinkai used to manipulate his body. No feelings. I didn't write what I wanted, so I'll read it later and write another one, adding a new one. 29. What is he doing? Looking at the ninjas of the Ishida family who did not dodge at all below, the people on the city wall were a little strange, and the villager hunters below all subconsciously crouched on the ground with their heads in their arms, their arrows off the strings. They had nowhere to escape, and despair shrouded everyone's hearts. Suddenly, the ground began to shake, and the ground quickly split open. Giant vines as thick as buckets quickly emerged from the ground and soared into the sky. All the arrows in the sky were blocked by vines. Those vines gathered together again and turned into towering trees one after another. In just an instant, the entire gate of the city was enveloped. What is this? The warriors on the city wall looked at the several tall trees that were several times higher than the city wall, and their faces turned pale. And the adjutant was similar, almost sitting on the ground. He only now understood what kind of enemy he was facing. But Ishida Meimong will not spare them. The tall city wall also began to vibrate rapidly, and after a while it cracked, and vines quickly drilled out of it, madly rushing towards all the surrounding life. The big tree also quickly pulled out a series of vines, like a thick boa constrictor, quickly came to the city wall, and involved the stunned warriors one by one. In just a few breaths, hundreds of warriors on the city wall were all entangled by vines and hung up, and the originally tall and majestic city wall has tilted at this moment, as if as long as the vines exert more force, the city wall will fall down. Forgive, spare. Master Kitano, please spare. The adjutant who was hung upside down watched the sloping city wall below. His face was pale with fright, and he immediately cried out with snot and tears. The other warriors did the same, and began to cry frantically and begged for mercy. For a moment, all the aggressive Sinongsheng troops were frightened and cried for their parents. The chaotic and harsh begging for mercy made Ishida Meimong frown. noisy. With a low shout, those vines quickly wrapped around the exposed heads of the warriors. Finally, the vines like a python suddenly tightened. There was an instant silence in front of the city gate. The servants of the Ishida family who followed were shocked when they saw that Ishida Meimong had taken down hundreds of warriors by himself. Ishida Youngdu knows that all of this is the reason for Ishida Meimong's blood inheritance limit. He is very clear that blood successor limitation is an extremely rare existence. Once a ninja awakens blood succession limitation, he will have more subtle attack methods than ordinary ninjas. This vine is one kind. The super high plasticity of wood style makes its attack the means are more varied. Moreover, Ishida Youngdu is also very clear that the blood inheritance limit is not awakened by Ishida Meimong himself, but bestowed by the ancestors of Ishida's family. Let's go. As long as the Lord's mansion is occupied, this Sinong city should be regarded as taken. After a pause, Ishida Youngdu withdrew his envious eyes and said seriously, compared to the great cause of Ishida's family, the casualties of those guarding soldiers are insignificant. Is this the strength of the Ishida family? Daimyo, you have provoked an enemy you shouldn't have provoked. Seeing the ninjas leaving quickly in front of him, Taro Kitano, who was in shock, also reacted, sighed secretly, and thought to himself. At this moment, the Lord's mansion still doesn't know what happened at the city gate. All the patriarchs of the ninja family, the Lord has already found out that only the Ishida family is the only one who endangers Tianjigua. You are all affected. As long as you help me defend until the reinforcements arrive, I will definitely report to your excellency Daimyo personally. Give everyone a chance to be rehabilitated. At this moment, the Lord Tianzhoming was standing in the hall and said loudly. For the sake of his own life, Akira Tanaka decided to call out all the ninja family members who had just joined him recently. If Ishida Xinkai was here, he would definitely find that the ninjas in front of Akira Tanaka were the patriarchs and clan members of the Kaname, Nakatani, and Chimori families who went to Ishida's house to seek protection. The three families didn't want to be servants of the Ishida family, so they simply found another way, ran to the city of Sinong, and decided to obey Tianjigua's dispatch. They know that there must be 5 major countries behind Tianjigua's efforts against each ninja family. As long as they obey Tianjigua, or even the 5 major countries, then there will be no problem. In their view, Tianjigua still want to sweep Tianjigua's face at this time, and even confronted Tianjigua, and sooner or later he would be cleaned up by the ninja villages of the 5 major countries. Mice can't beat cats, and they know this very well. Although Ishida's family is a mouse that is about to grow up, compared with any of the 5 big cats, it will end up being bitten to death by teasing. Don't worry, my lord. The Ishida family is ignorant of current affairs. When the reinforcements arrive, we will go and destroy the Ishida family together. The patriarch of the Nakatani family clasped his hands and said with a serious expression. He was full of words. He was waiting for the Kingdom of Fire to take action to teach the Ishida family a piece of the pie. He might even be able to gain a relationship with Konoha. If he could be incorporated Konoha, of course that would be the best. That's right. How can the small Ishida family shake the Tanaka family that has been passed down for hundreds of years? Then the Ishida family will not be arrogant for long. The patriarch of the Chimori family next to him also nodded in agreement. Anyway, the Ishida family is not here, so it is not up to them. Is it? At this moment, a voice came from outside, and Ishida Yudo and Ishida Meimong came to the gate of the Daming Mansion Hall. The so-called guards of the Daming Mansion were nothing to the 2 Jonin and dozens of Chunin. After easily killing dozens of samurai who dared to speak out and wanted to report, those troops were successfully taken over by Kitano Taro, so fast that those people had no time to react. I don't know how long my Ishida family can be arrogant with the blessing of our ancestors, but you will never have the chance to see that time. Ishida Yuto held kunai, wiped the bloodline on his waist, then raised his head. His words were calm, but extremely arrogant. 30. Ishida bravely crossed them to appear in front of the hall of the Lord's mansion. There is only one possibility, that is, all the guards of the Lord's mansion have been dealt with. Everyone looked at the figures of Ishida Yuto and Ishida Meimong in front of the door in disbelief. Trespassing on the Lord's mansion. Do you know what you are doing? Tianzhoming's heart tightened, and he immediately yelled loudly. But no one paid him any attention at all. Ishida Youngdu set his sights on the patriarchs of the 3 families. You didn't want to be servants of the Ishida family back then, but you actually ran over to serve as lackeys for Tianjigua. Ishida Youngdu's words were not polite at all, and the indifferent tone made the hearts of the 3 tribes chill. That misunderstanding one of the patriarchs only felt that his scalp was numb. He didn't expect that the people from the Ishida family would come to Xingshi so soon to inquire about the crime. For a while, he regretted why he came to Sinong City so early, but it was a matter of life and death, and they had to stand up and distance yourself from Tianjigua. But before he finished speaking, a ray of suffering had already flown over. What? Looking at Kanai, the patriarch of the Zhonggu family was shocked and angry and wanted to dodge, but at this moment, branches suddenly grew out of the wooden board under his feet, and those branches quickly restrained him in place, interrupting his escape actions. Puff! Ishida bravely crossed the Kanai and nailed it directly to the throat of the patriarch of the Nakatani family, and the patriarch of the family fell. Patriarch! Seeing the head of their own family being killed, the two young people from the Zhonggu family suddenly let out a cry of grief. But this made Ishida Yongdu obviously not come to listen to their mourning here. Get rid of them all. Ishida Yongdu gave an order, and the Ishida family ninja who just rushed over quickly rushed into the hall. After Ishida Xinkai used the second level of promotion, the chakra in Ishida's Chunin's body has increased by 20% on average, and his strength has naturally improved a lot compared to before. As soon as he entered the hall of the Lord's mansion, he immediately began to spread his butcher knife like wolves and sheep. At this moment, the members of the Ishida family are extremely loyal to the Ishida family and Ishida Xinkai, and they acted without sloppiness. In addition, there is Ishida bravely crossing the formation next to them, killed on the spot. At this moment, Tanaka Langtai was put under the misery, and his face was ashen. He was just an ordinary samurai, far worse than Sasaki Ichiro, and even worse than ordinary Chunin. He just searched many folks for his daimyo. It is only the beauties who win the contemporary names and get the surnames. At the same time, it was also because the daimyo told him that Ishida's house was about to be attacked by killers, so he took the initiative to take over the task, but he didn't understand why things had come to this point, which was completely different from what he expected when he was in the daimyo mansion. Same. Akira Tanaka next to him calmed down instead. You can't kill me. According to the laws of various countries, you should treat the nobles preferentially. My uncle is the daimyo of Tianjigua, and he will exchange the ransom for me. The nobles are not strong personally, but they are involved in many things, so every country will take the initiative to redeem the captured nobles. At the same time, the captives are also happy to do this transaction. It has become the default clause of various countries. At this time, Kitano Taro also surrounded with the army. Seeing the figure of Kitano Taro, Tanaka Rotai and Tanaka Akira's eyes lit up immediately. They were a little moved just now, but the next moment they saw Kitano Taro kneeling respectfully in front of Ishida Yuto. My lord, all the troops in Sinong City have surrendered. Kitano Taro said respectfully to Ishida Yuto. The giant vines and trees at the gate of the city are still there. Of course he dare not be disrespectful. Baitano, what are you doing? You are the army commander of Sinong City. You are a samurai from my Tanaka family. Seeing Kitano's actions, Akira Tanaka's expression changed immediately, and he asked angrily, I am now a servant of the Tanaka family, and you are no longer qualified to speak of me. Kitano Taro will be a bachelor when the time comes. He raised his head, looked at this idiot lord who has been exploiting Sinong City's military force since he took office, and said with disdain immediately, My lord, I know where the treasure house of the Lord's mansion is. We can take an inventory of the contents of the treasure house first, and then let the master look over it. Since you have pledged allegiance to the Ishida family, you must serve it well. After Tanaka Akira, Kitano Taro immediately said to Ishida Yuto. After all, Ishida Yuto is the general manager of all the servants of the Ishida family, and he is also the leader of the conquest department. This action is naturally headed by him. Ishida Meimong just came to help Liu Ezhin. As long as Ishida Yongdu has no second thoughts, he will naturally not interfere with the task. Okay, guard this cowardly lord. 2 people will go to inform the patriarch. He will make a decision, and the other will be killed directly. Ishida Yongdu's eyes lit up, and then he waved his hand and said something, which directly decided the fate of the two. But Ishida Meimong didn't plan to go to see the treasure house with them, because in his opinion, he had more important things to do. Send someone. All the people in the city gather at the central square of Sinong City, where I will build a shrine for the ancestors. Ishida Meimong said to the two of them. Ishida's heart skipped a beat immediately. Okay, I'm sorry to trouble you. The ancestors of the Ishida family should have known about the fact that we took down Sinong City first. Ishida Yongdu has completely regarded himself as the heir of Ishida Xinkai, and he was in a state of surrender to Ishida Xinkai, and he immediately understood the opposite of Ishida Meimong, and said without hesitation. After a while, Ishida Xinkai sighed. Ding. Congratulations to Zhu Ling. The number of your shrines is +1, your domain has reached 1 city, and among believers, the chance of appearing ninja qualifications is +10%, the chance of appearing chunin qualifications is +1%, and the chance of appearing Jōnin qualifications is +0.1%. 31. The Country of Fire. Konoha, the ninjas are practicing hard as usual, but after more than 10 years of peace, Konoha's new generation of ninjas have matured. Some ninjas who have experienced the last war look at the children who are only in their teens and 20s. They look surprisingly calm. As people who have experienced it, they know very well that if the village wants to be strong, it urgently needs a life-and-death battle to hone. Different from small countries, there are few ninjas in small countries. Each one, even everyone, even genin will be maintained as a high-end combat force. But big countries are different. The sufficient population allows them not to worry about the number of ninjas. In their view, they have experienced life and death. The ninjas who survived are the ones who can really be used. Therefore, the task of ninjas has become their first choice for sharpening in peacetime. Inside Hokage's office, third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo are sitting facing each other. You have meddled in the affairs of Tianjigua again. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Shimura Danzo with a calm expression, and with just one sentence, it was impossible to see what Shimura Danzo was thinking right now. I just helped Tianjigua post a reward task at the money exchange office, and the person who posted it was also Tianjigua's side. Shimura Danzo said calmly, for him, the affairs of a small country are insignificant at all. Because of the wrong information, the money exchange office has already targeted Tianjigua, so we can no longer interfere with Tianjigua. Sarutobi Hiruzen remained expressionless, but calmly said to the indifferent Shimura Danzo in front of him. This time, Shimura Danzo didn't speak, but just nodded, acquiescing. He knew that if he said anything else, the two might quarrel. Shimura Danzo has his own ideas and doesn't intend to let the other party restrict his actions, but he agreed first. Recently, people from Fengtu and Fengtu have frequently appeared in the Land of Rain, and I decided to send those newcomers to the Land of Rain. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't continue the topic, but suddenly said another sentence. You are Hokage. You can decide everything. Shimura Danzo didn't say much, and got up and left without saying anything. The people of Sinong City were quickly gathered in the central square. After all, it was the army of Sinong City who went door to door to notify, and no one dared to disobey the demands of those warriors. Soon more and more people came to the square. Looking from above, it was already full of people and bustling. If it wasn't for the well-equipped warriors around to maintain order, it would have been a mess long ago. What is the city lord going to do? It's been less than a year since the last tax increase. Is it possible that the tax will be raised again this year? If this continues, life may not be able to continue. Some merchants couldn't help frowning and asked as they looked at the bustling crowd around them. Come on, your family still has a lot of land outside the city. No matter how much you increase the tax, you won't be hungry. It's not like us. When the tax is increased, those farmers will pay for the food, and we have to buy food. Expensive. Ordinary people and ninjas are no longer in the same circle, so they think about different things, especially the people under the governance. At this moment, they are more worried about how to maintain their lives. Although there has been no war in Tianji country for decades, no one wants to experience a life without enough food. When was a house built on the square? Soon, someone noticed something was wrong. On the empty square in the morning, there suddenly appeared a huge building taller than the city wall. Countless people raised their heads and couldn't help but marvel at the tall building in front of them. One must know that in the entire Sinong city, the tallest building is only 3 or 4 stories high, but the building in front of it is actually taller than the city wall. Such a huge amount of work should take a long time to complete, but when they passed here in the morning, they obviously hadn't. Look at that. Why does it look like a shrine? Suddenly, a person muttered strangely, and the people around were stunned. And then they also noticed the smell of incense in the air, as if they thought it was true. Who made such a big deal? They actually built such a big shrine? Such a big shrine must have cost a lot of money. I guess the damn Lord will ask us to pay again. Hearing that person's words, one of them immediately grinned and said, as if this was not the first time such a thing had happened. But soon, people from Ishida's family appeared on the high platform on the side of the square. The leader is none other than the head of the Ishida family, Ishida Sorikari. Because Sinong City has now become the domain of Ishida's family, and there is a new shrine, Ishida Xinkai also came here. TSK. Let's say there are tens of thousands of people, Even if they are superficial believers, they can contribute hundreds of incense points a day. Ishida Xinkai couldn't help sighing as he looked at the ants-like crowd that was still pouring in from below. No, you must not let go of such a huge resource. At least the old man has given you a chance to give birth to ninjas. You should at least pay homage to me every month. Ishida Xinkai thought for a while, and immediately made a decision. He naturally didn't want to let go. Thanks to the huge population base, for him, these are all the incense value placed there, the power of the gods in the future. Ishida Xinkai's heart beat faster when he thought that if he used a little trick, thousands, or even tens of thousands of people would sincerely worship him. But soon, Ishida Xinkai's company cooled down. Because in his information panel, he only has 10 points of divine power left, and there are also 200 points of incense value that the clansman worships regularly today. Even if the incense value is exchanged for divine power, his divine power is only 12 points. However, the blood jade used for coming in the ancestral spirit mall cost 20 points, and even just coming down could not meet his requirements at all. For a moment, unprecedented tension appeared in Ishida Xinkai's heart. Are you really going to miss this opportunity? 32. Insufficient spiritual power caused Ishida Xinkai to be knocked back to the display in an instant. I didn't expect to go back to the embarrassment when the system was not turned on a month ago. Ishida Xinkai sighed, and said with a helpless smile, if I had known that such a day would come, I would not have been in such a hurry to redeem those items at Ishida's house. In the shrine, Ishida Maimong is respectfully lighting joss sticks. Lord Ancestors, the descendants refused to accept the glory of the ancestors and took down the city of Senong. Did you see it? The descendants will encourage me even more in the future, and will punish those who offend my Ishida family one by one. After speaking, Ishida Maimong paid homage to absorb, and then respectfully planted the incense into the censer with gold-plated inscriptions. Ding! Accept the incense sacrifice and get the incense value plus 3,000. As the three of Ishida Konkari bowed down one after another, Ishida Xinkai suddenly received a system prompt. Incense value? Ishida Xinkai was taken aback, quickly sank into the shrine, and saw 3 people who were worshipping in the shrine. Oh, I remembered. My cheat has been on for a month, and it was exactly 30 days ago when Maimong refilled the incense for me for the first time. When Ishida Xinkai's eyes fell on Ishida Maimong, he suddenly understood, and then said excitedly, Ishida Maimong contributed 3,000 points of incense, although only 30 points are converted into divine power, but it is enough for the current Ishida Xinkai, all transformed into divine power. Ishida Xinkai cried out excitedly. Ding! Congratulations to the Ancestor spirit for consuming 3,200 points of incense and converting it into 32 points of divine power. Currently, the host can use 42 points of divine power. Ding! God's spiritual power is extremely scarce. Please replenish it in time. As Ishida Xinkai's voice fell, the system quickly responded, and the last prompt immediately poured cold water on Ishida Xinkai, who was full of joy. I want to add it. If it weren't for the lack of incense value, I would definitely add it. I don't do anything every day and just replenish the power of the gods. Ishida Xinkai rolled his eyes and muttered to himself. He already knew that he was poor, and this dog system came to remind him. But then, Ishida Xinkai became happy again. Open the Zilling Mall. Entering the interface of Zilling Mall, Ishida Xinkai couldn't wait to scroll down to the lowest end and began to look for what she wanted. As for the above items, those are worth millions of spiritual power, which is not what Ishida Xinkai can consume at the moment. In order to save saliva, Ishida Xinkai naturally does not dare to linger on the above items for half a second. Just when Ishida Xinkai was still looking for the right props, Ishida Sorikari has already spoken. Bring people up, Ishida Sorikari said softly. Soon, 2 people came to the high platform with a figure who was tied up. That's Lord. The people in front of the high platform were the closest, so they could see it clearly. When the people of Senong City saw the face of the figure tied up, their expressions changed immediately, and then they rubbed their eyes by mistake. After a confirmed look, they immediately exclaimed, What happened to the Lord? It was the Lord who asked us to gather here. Isn't it normal to see him? Hearing the voice from the crowd, they all pursed their lips and said disdainfully, they already knew that the Lord was trying to get money from them again. The Lord has been kidnapped. Who are these people? The people in front didn't know what the people behind were talking about, so they just screamed in shock. The Lord is the head of Senong City. If he is kidnapped, doesn't that mean that Senong City has been invaded by an enemy country? In an instant, the crowd below suddenly became agitated. The civilians at the gate of the city seemed to have guessed something, and they all stared at the high platform intently. In their view, although the people of the enemy country are scary, as long as they don't hurt them, then they have nothing to be afraid of. Below are the farmers who were rescued by Ishida Maimong using with style. At least in their eyes, the invading ninjas were not vicious thugs. Everyone be quiet. Kitano Taro saw the continuous noise below, then glanced at Ishida Sorikari next to him, and said loudly. At the same time, all the surrounding warriors who maintained order drew their weapons from their waists in an instant, while the noisy crowd below fell silent in an instant. After all, there is a shining blade next to him. Who knows if the blade will fall on his neck if he says one more word? The square became quiet, and Ishida Sorikari nodded in satisfaction. Ishida's family wants to settle in Sinong City, but blindly benevolent government is not enough. It would be appropriate for the Ishida family to supervise Sinong City for the old fritters of Sinong City like Taro Kitano. But that's all. Ishida Sara waved his hand, and the two ninjas sandwiched the Lord Akira Tanaka and knelt down in front of the high platform. B******************** D. I am the Lord of Sinong City, an orthodox nobleman, and you guys actually make me kneel down to those commoners? Kneeling on the ground, looking at the dense crowd below, Tian Zhoming turned white and red, and immediately yelled angrily. Hearing the familiar voice, the people below finally confirmed that it was the Lord of Sinong City. Immediately, those who were watching the show with suspicion were at a loss, because the ones who maintained order were the warriors of Sinong City. They actually watched the Lord being tied up and kneeling on the ground, which made many people feel a little nervous, can't figure it out. Above the shrine, Ishida Xinkai has already found what she wants from the Zuling Mall. Exchange Chakra Simulation Projection Stone. Exchange Blood Jade. Chakra Simulation Projection Stone. Chakra Projection Stone is injected according to the user's thinking and consumes chakra to construct and project the virtual image imagined by the host. The larger the scale of the construction scene, the more chakra will be consumed. Price: 20 points of divine power. Ding. The exchange was successful, consuming 40 points of divine power. The system prompt sounded again, and Ishida Xinkai also got a ring-shaped blood jade and a gray rough stone. When Ishida Sorikari took a step forward, planning to discuss Tanaka Akira's crimes, Ishida Xinkai had already used the props he had just bought. In an instant, a golden radiance bloomed from the shrine. A huge beam of light rushed into the sky, and phantoms of gods and Buddhas appeared in the sky above the shrine, as if looking down. Then there was a beam of light hanging from the center of those gods and Buddhas, falling in front of the shrine, and then a figure very familiar to Ishida's family slowly walked out of the beam of light. 33. Ishida Xinkai is very different at this moment from yesterday. Change the simplicity before. He was wearing a blue hunting suit, with 2 white feathers slanting down from his shoulders, and a white jade drape around his waist, matched with a Liwu hat on his head, very much like a legendary priest. The gods in the shrine have appeared. The people present were all ordinary people, who had never seen such a battle before. An old man watched Ishida Xinkai walk out of the golden beam of light. As if a heavenly man had descended, he shouted, and immediately fell to his knees, bowing his head and worshipping. For a moment, 1,000 waves were stirred up for a moment, and the crowd in the square was like the wind blowing wheat waves, and more people knelt down. In the sky, there are phantoms of Tengu God and Buddha overlooking the bottom, and the warriors of Sinong City didn't have the guts to stop them. This is really the Ancestor? Looking at the appearance of Ishida Xinkai in the distance, Ishida Sakari and Ishida Yuto glanced at each other. Both of them were shocked, as if seeing Ishida Xinkai for the first time. But the surprise is the surprise. After all, it is my ancestors, and the Ishida family also knelt down without hesitation. The heart of Kitano Taro next to him twitched. He had seen the portrait of the ancestors of the Ishida family at the shrine of the Ishida family. Ancestors. Kitano Taro was horrified, and quickly fell to his knees. Could it be that what the patriarch said before is true, that the ancestor of the Ishida family can really watch the actions of the people below all the time? How is this possible? This is a god. Or that the ancestor of the Ishida family became a ghost after death. Kitano Taro's heart was boiling, and his mind was full of thoughts, and bold guesses emerged in his mind. Although Konoha's second Hokage Senju Tobarama developed the forbidden technique impure world reincarnation, they knew the existence of the pure land of ultimate bliss. But other people don't know that for others, death means death and will never reappear. Legend has it that some powerful or special people may scream and turn into ghosts or ghosts in the dark. God, but this is just a legend. Nowhere is it like today. A person who has been dead for decades suddenly appeared in front of them. If it weren't for the weirdness of the vision in the sky, he might have wondered if someone had deliberately disguised it. However, while Taro Katana was terrified, he was excited at the same time. Because the stronger the Ishida family, it meant that as long as he was honestly loyal to the Ishida family, even if he died, someone would protect him. My lord has come. What orders does my lord have? In front of Chenyi, a man boldly and nervously asked. This is something that has never been heard of before, but it happens to appear in front of them now. If you can get the favor of this god, it will definitely be of great benefit. How did they know that these so-called Tengu gods, Buddhas, and those golden lights are all timeless thanks to the Chakra simulation projection stone? If someone from the Hyuga family looks here with supercilious eyes, they will definitely discover the mystery. But Hyuga's family is only so small, so it is naturally impossible for them to appear in this land of fields. I am the ancestor of the Ishida family. Ishida Xinkai didn't hesitate and said directly. His voice was easily transmitted to the ears of tens of thousands of people in the square with the effect of Chakra's simulated projection stone. The ancestor of the Ishida family? The people below were taken aback for a moment, but they didn't dare to make a sound. They just lowered their heads even lower. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice, and get the incense value +1. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice, and get the incense value +1. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice, and get the incense value +1. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice, and get the incense value +1. After announcing his identity, a series of system prompts appeared quickly, which surprised Ishida Xinkai, and then Ishida Xinkai set his sights on his information panel. He found that his incense value had actually increased by more than 500 in such a short period of time, that is to say, among those who kneel down below, even if they know that he is the ancestor of the Ishida family, they still bow down sincerely. From today, my Ishida family will take over Sinong City, and you and others will be my family's descendants. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Ishida Xinkai said to the front with a calm face. The calm face and plain words, every word, made people feel excited. Those who are the people of my family will be protected by me and sincerely worship, so that future generations will be endowed with the talent of tolerance. Ishida Xinkai paused for a moment and continued, directly taking the benefits that the ancestor system opened after his domain reached a city to himself. Worshipping with sincerity will make future generations endowed with ninja talent. Become a ninja? Hearing Ishida Shinkai's words, the hearts of the kneeling people below suddenly trembled. In the eyes of ordinary people in this world, ninjas are just like in the comprehension novels that Ishida Xinkai read in his previous life. The comprehensionists are in the eyes of ordinary people. They are legendary existences, and they are existences that even nobles dare not provoke. And the god tier, the ancestor of the Ishida family, actually said, didn't he say that the entire Sinong city should be turned into a city of ninjas? For a while, not to mention the ordinary people, even the people of Ishida's family began to have their heartbeats racing. And Ishida Xinkai is not idle here, because the number of incense sacrifices is still increasing. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice, and get the incense value +1. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice, and get the incense value +1. At the same time, Ishida Xinkai opened the belief panel, and the number of people behind the superficial belief has exceeded 1,000, and it is still increasing. 34. A series of system messages made it too late for Ishida Xinkai to read them. Fortunately, Ishida Xinkai directly opened the belief panel. Faith panel enshrined as a god, generates 100 points of incense every day, 0.5 body projection, generates 30 points of incense every day, 3 zealous worship, generates 1 incense point per day, 113 worship, generates 0.3 points of incense per day, 48 superficial belief, 0.01 incense value is generated every day, 1135 The number of superficial believers is still increasing, and even the number of people in the worship column has increased by dozens. However, these 1,000 or so people are still far behind the tens of thousands of people on the field. After all, there are still most people kneeling in the audience, but their hearts are full of doubts. God has always been an illusory existence. In the hearts of the people, the highest is the kingship of Daming Mansion. In their view, even if gods really exist, it is impossible for them to intervene in their worldly affairs, so they are still managed by the Daming Mansion of Tianjigua. Ishida Xinkai is also very aware of this point. Since he is regarded as a legendary god, Ishida Xinkai does not intend to explain too much. Instead, He intends to use his theocracy to trample on the kingship of the kingdom of Tian. If your own Ishida family can step down the royal power, then the Ishida family will be the supreme of the land country. At this time, Ishida Xinkai set his eyes on Akira Tanaka on the high platform in the distance. The lord of Sinong City has committed a heinous crime. According to the law of the Ishida family, he should be beheaded. Ishida Xinkai spoke slowly and said what Ishida Sorikari should have said. The law of the Ishida family. Is this Ishida family really planning to challenge the daimyo? Hearing Ishida Shinkai's words, the people below were stunned for a moment. They thought that the ancestor of the Ishida family suddenly came out and interrupted the trial of the head of the Ishida family in order not to quarrel with the daiming mansion and the nobles. After all, even ordinary people know that nobles from all over the world already have a tacit understanding. If a country rebels, other countries will be happy, but if the interests of the nobles are violated, then although the nobles of the world will not unite, but they will also jointly reject those who dare to harm their interests. The reason why those nobles are high is that no matter what time they are very clear that their safety will not be threatened. But if the Ishida family really dares to kill Lord Akira Tanaka, let alone the daimyo prefecture, even other countries will cut off all ties with the Ishida family, and may even support the daimyo of the Oda country to suppress the Ishida family. Do you want to disown him? Sure enough, every time a lord takes office, he will give us civilians a disarm. The wealthy clans of Sinong City, outside the square, looked at the front calmly. They had experienced similar things. Every time they shouted loudly, but they never carried it out. It was just to calm down the people of Sinong City and make them be honest. Real surrender. However, their expressions changed the next moment. Following the order of the ancestor of the Ishida family, the members of the Ishida family didn't hesitate at all and drew out their short swords and slashed across Akira Tanaka's neck in an instant. Gulyula. Akira Tanaka's head fell to the ground and rolled all the way to the stage. His eyes widened in doubt. Not to mention those people. Even he himself didn't expect that the Ishida family would really dare to kill him. Wow. In an instant, there was an uproar in the square. Kill, kill. The Ishida family just killed the lord? Looking at the headless corpse kneeling in the sky, I felt like my heart almost jumped out. In their opinion, these guys should say a few more words to win people's hearts, and then take them down. How could they be killed? These Ishidas really killed Lord Tanaka just like that. It's really unwise. Did the ancestor of the Ishida family really not think of this? He wants to put the Ishida family to death. The corners of the mouths of some of the gentry of Sinong City, who were watching the show with a joking attitude, all twitched. It is said that they had already guessed the next process, but the actions of the Ishida family were completely beyond their imagination, and they did not give them the slightest hint. Time to think. They originally planned to show favor to this Ishida family, but now they really hesitated. Because they know very well that the nobles, including the 5 major countries, will never allow the existence of forces that dare to threaten the rule of the nobles in any place. The Ishida family is challenging the authority of the 5 major powers. However, this is not the case for ordinary people. That's the Lord, probably the biggest person many people have ever seen in their lives, and he was killed just like that. At this moment, ordinary people also vaguely understand that the rights of those nobles do not seem to apply to the Ishida family. My Ishida family has no nobles. If you enter my Ishida family, you are all members of my Ishida family. Ishida Xinkai said something calmly, directly giving an accurate answer to those who were still guessing. No nobles. After Ishida Shinkai's voice fell, the tens of thousands of people in the audience were shocked, and then they all looked at Ishida Konkari, who claimed to be the head of Ishida's family. According to the decree of the ancestors, there will be no nobles in the Ishida family's domain in the future. Ishida Sorikari looked respectful. For the Ishida family, which is a ninja family, the so-called noble privileges are just a joke. Ishida Kongsho felt that he was indeed the head of the Ishida family. With some news, people were more willing to listen to the words of the head of the family who led people to capture the Lord's mansion. In an instant, Chinyi saw that in his faith panel, the number of ninjutsu he believed in was increasing by hundreds per second. From 1001 to 1002, 1003, 1004, 2000, 3000 soon. The number reached 5,000, and it continued to increase. And Ishida Shinkai's incense value quickly rose to 5,300 points. Sure enough, ordinary people are the easiest to satisfy. Ishida Xinkai looked at the rapidly increasing incense value in her information bar, and her heart was also full of joy. Although it seems that he promised a lot of benefits, in fact he didn't give those people any benefits. It can be said that he was empty-handed. The gentry who don't worry can also stay out of it. Those who can believe that Ishida Xinkai is really the descendant of the ancestors are unwilling people, or unwillingness to one's own life experience, unwillingness to fate, or even unwillingness to the years. But these are things ordinary people can't stop, but the appearance of Ishida Xinkai is tantamount to giving them hope. If worship is loyalty, then the attitude of the people below towards Ishida Xinkai is faith. Ishida Shinkai's resurrection from the dead can happen, so they believe that the ancestor of the Ishida family can also help change themselves. However, Ishida Xinkai doesn't know what people think. For him, the belief panel is still being refreshed, but the growth rate of the number of superficial believers has begun to decrease, but the worship has begun to skyrocket. Obviously, there are many original believers. It's just that those who have superficial beliefs have become more respectful to the ancestor of the Ishida family. Book reading fun on Friday. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity time, April 29th to May 3rd. 35. If it is said that Ishida Xinkai originally planned to take over Sinong Castle in a gentle way, then the appearance of Ishida Xinkai directly brought the atmosphere of the people in Sinong City to a climax as a whole. The old ancestor is really powerful. Ishida Xinkai looked at the people of Sinong City who were chanting and worshipping loudly below, and couldn't help sighing. Ishida Xinkai glanced at the square, and also noticed the gentry who were watching coldly on the edge. They are all big families in Sinong City. Although they are not considered rules, each of them has huge financial resources, even enough to hire jonin from other countries, so they think they are qualified to negotiate even with the Ishida family. Ishida Xinkai is the family crest on those who are the ancestors of the Ishida family, natural persons. They're all old acquaintances. Looking at those familiar family emblems, Ishida Xinkai sneered in his heart. Sinong City has now been regarded by him as the base of the Ishida family. If he cannot sincerely worship him, it means that the other party will not be loyal to the Ishida family, and he will naturally not allow it. Those with second thoughts stay in Sinong City. Since you don't intend to be loyal to the Ishida family, prepare to be purged. Ishida Xinkai thought inwardly, and then continued to focus on those people. In the future, all businesses in Sinong City will be owned by the Ishida family. Ishida Xinkai spoke suddenly, and the content of the words made everyone's expressions change. Even Ishida Sakari was taken aback by his ancestor. All belong to Ishida's family. Isn't this directly killing the people in the entire Sinong City? For a moment, everyone in the city looked blankly at Ishida Xinkai above, and even the people who were still worshipping sincerely began to waver in an instant. In the future, the Ishida family will lease the shop to people who are loyal to my Ishida family for free, and all fixed taxes will be exempted, and only half of the profit will be paid every month. Ishida Xinkai simply simplified the set of taxation in his previous life and published it. He had mentioned this tax policy to his predecessor, Tianjigua Daimyo, but the other party did not adopt it considering that Tianjigua needed wealth to strengthen the country. He didn't say much. But now that the Ishida family is in power, Ishida Xinkai just needs the incense value of people's sincere worship, and said directly, money is just a figure for him, because there is no need to develop military power. So this proportion of taxes is completely enough for the normal operation of Sinong City and the Ishida family, and even can still save a lot of money every year. Returnees have it, free to apply, and only need to pay half of the tax? My God, am I dreaming? Listening to Ishida Shinkai's next words, the people below all stood on the spot in disbelief, and even the owners of some small shops were fanatical. Although they own shops, the high taxes make them unable to accumulate wealth, but now although the Ishida family wants to take back the shop and fields, it is equivalent to tax exemption. It only takes a few years for them to save the money of the shop back. After all, this was an era of war and chaos, but no one was speculating on real estate. Except for a few areas, the prices of shops in Sinong City can be said to be extremely cheap. Moreover, many shops are their own houses, so there is no need to worry about what will happen to Ishida's family. For a while, many people below were clutching their hearts, unable to believe that such a good thing would happen. But the gentry around them all turned cold. Obviously, the words of the ancestors of the Ishida family were mainly aimed at them. It seems to be a benefit to the people of Sinong City, but it is a heavy blow to them, the rich and powerful gentry. The commercial income is owned by the family, and the tax is paid in proportion to the profit. This will undoubtedly put them on the fire. What kind of ancestor? It's just to make money. It's really ridiculous. Passed by the interests, the gentry finally couldn't sit still, and immediately sneered at Ishida Xinkai and said loudly, directly breaking the calm of the square. In an instant, everyone's eyes quickly gathered over. The Matsumoto family is the largest family in Sinong City, and they have a lot of fengshi. Looking at the man, the people of Sinong City immediately recognized him. Dare to insult the ancestors, you are courting death. Before Ishida Xinkai could speak, Ishida Yuto jumped up, shouted, and quickly came to the head of the Matsumoto family, grabbing him by the neck. I am the representative of Sinong City Commercial Bank. The patriarch of the Matsumoto family didn't expect that the Ishida family would attack him at the slightest disagreement. His expression changed immediately, and he said annoyedly, behind him was the whole group of wealthy gentry in Sinong City. If the Ishida family dared to touch him, it will inevitably impact the business of Sinong City. Ishida Yongdu frowned and looked at Ishida Xinkai in the distance. And Ishida Xinkai didn't seem to see it, just a flash, and quickly came to the eaves of the shrine, looking at a luxurious house not far away. There must be the Matsumoto family. Just when people were surprised, Ishida Xinkai grinned. Seeing Ishida Xinkai smile, Patriarch Matsumoto was startled and secretly said, "What does this guy want to do?" Would style forest tree see? Ishida Xinkai formed a mudra on her hand and uttered a sentence clearly from her mouth. The next moment, the mansion of the Yamamoto family in the distance began to tremble violently, and then vines like giant pythons sprang out quickly, destroying all the buildings inside, and all the Matsumoto family members inside were submerged. Just a few breaths away, the huge mansion of the Matsumoto family was directly reduced to a sea of trees, and then the vines shrunk and gathered in the middle, twisted around again, and the Matsumoto family disappeared completely among the vines. Not even a piece of rubble remained. At this moment, the Matsumoto patriarch, who was restrained by Ishida Yongdu, looked at the towering tree with countless vines in the distance, and his whole face turned pale. Although he couldn't see what Matsumoto's family was like now, he saw those vines motion track. My Matsumoto family, a century-old foundation, is gone. After saying this, the Matsumoto patriarch immediately rolled his eyes and passed out. And the other noble gentry were all pale, and then they were afraid that their family would be wiped out so easily, so they quickly fell to their knees. Master Ancestor Kamui, I, the Sugishima family, wish to be the servants of the Ishida family forever. The Sanchue family is willing to be a servant of the Ishida family. The Goto family is willing to be a servant of the Ishida family. The patriarchs of the big and small families in Sinong City, who were still unhappy, were like frightened chicks and kowtowed in the direction of Ishida Xinkai crazily. Only then did they realize that this Ishida family is no longer the peaceful ninja family that it used to be. I heard that this ancestor once challenged Konoha first Hokage, and the final outcome is unknown. Perhaps this Ishida family already has the foundation to compete against the 5 great powers. 36. Although the appearance of Ishida Xinkai messed up the original arrangement of Ishida Sora, it achieved better results. If his ancestors didn't show up, I'm afraid it will take him a few months to calm down those gentry. Seeing Ishida Xinkai's methods, the families who originally planned to bargain with Ishida's family were all frightened, knelt on the ground and cried. If not everyone present knew what was going on, they would have thought it was someone else's heirs came out to cry for filial piety. Ishida Xinkai glanced at the worshipping people below, and the time for his arrival was coming. Sons of the Ishida family, I will always pay attention to you. If you want to change your destiny, just offer your loyalty. Ishida Xinkai looked at it for less than a minute, and after pondering for a while, he said towards the bottom, because the timing was deliberately timed. After Ishida Xinkai finished speaking, his body quickly disappeared like a rippling lake. Seeing such a miracle, the wooden pipes of the people below were even more eager, and they couldn't stop their defeat. It is precisely those powerful gentry who admit to being cowardly, and the rest of the people naturally admire the ancestors of the Ishida family even more. In addition, Ishida Xinkai's ghost-like methods, and the words he left just now make the people below even more admirable. I took a reassurance pill, and Ishida Xinkai, who has become the ancestor spirit again, opened the belief panel again. Faith panel enshrined as a god, generates 100 points of incense every day, 0.5 body prostration, generates 30 points of incense every day, 5 zealous worship, generates 1 point of incense per day, 224 worship, generates 0.3 points of incense per day, 1397 superficial belief, 0.01 point of incense value is generated every day, 11,254, even fanatical worship has increased, and there are actually 2 more 5 body casts. Ishida Xinkai looked at the belief panel with increasing numbers, and was suddenly attracted by the numbers behind the 5-body prostration and fanatical worship. The ninjutsu fanatical worship has doubled, let alone. I have been at Ishida's house for a month, and there are only 3 people, Sora, Meimong, and Yudo, and all 3 of them have received great blessings from Fukuzawa before they become 5-body. Yes, he is naturally very aware of how difficult it is to have a 5-body projection. He didn't expect 2 more people to appear suddenly today. Check the list of 5-body projection personnel. Ishida Shinkai's breathing became heavy, and no one could see him at the moment anyway, so he didn't hold his hand at all, and hurriedly called out in a low voice. In the next moment, images of 5 people quickly appeared in Ishida Shinkai's eyes, with names beside them. Ishida Meimong, Kongsho, and Yudu were the first to catch the eye. Ishida Xinkai skipped it directly and quickly swept his eyes to the 2 pictures behind. The 4th person is Ishida Zygoko, who is in charge of the financial affairs of the Ishida family, so she was brought along by Ishida Sorikari. As members of the Ishida family see such a scene now, they are naturally too shocked to speak. The 5th person surprised Ishida Xinkai. It's actually this guy. Ishida Xinkai muttered in surprise. The 5th person is not a member of the Ishida family, nor is it a servant of the Ishida family, but Matsumoto Ran, the head of the Matsumoto family whose mansion was flattened by Ishida Xinkai. At this moment, Matsumoto suddenly woke up, threw himself on the ground and kowtowed continuously. His head was bleeding from the beating, and he dared not stop, and there was even a strange smell coming from his crotch. The so-called fear of ultimate is respect. Ishida Shinkai's method really scared him, so that he was not angry at all. He is a selfish person. In the face of Ishida Shinkai's absolute power, he can't give birth to the slightest disrespect. This is how the situation in Sinong City ended. Moreover, the news here is also spreading to the surroundings like a plague. Iron Country, Admiral Army, the Ishida family in Tianji Country? It's interesting. His descendants would pretend to be him to appear in order to deceive the people's trust. If he finds out, I don't know what he will think. Matagawa, the current admiral of the Iron Country, listened to the news from the samurai in front of him, nodded slightly, and said with a look of disdain, "General, have you heard of the Ishida family?" Beside him, a young samurai was stunned and asked in surprise. "I heard. A family created by a lunatic. He is a lunatic, and his family is also a lunatic. Listen, Mifune. If you meet someone from the Ishida family during your mission, don't hold back, just kill them." Matagawa responded leisurely, his expression still disdainful, and there was even a tinge of anger when he said it. The young man named Mifune also became serious. It was the first time he had seen such an expression from their admiral army. Not just the Iron Nation. As a neighboring country of Tianjigua, the country of fire also knew the news of the coup d'état in Tianjigua for the first time. But I don't know why, both Fire Country and Tian Country are surprisingly calm, as if nothing happened. As the instigator, Ishida Xinkai is looking at the random lottery mechanism in Zuling Mall. Ishida Sorikari's Mangekyo Sharingan and Ishida Meimang's with style Chakra both gave Ishida Xinkai a surprise. As the 2 pillars of Konoha's first generation, they showed a strength that ordinary ninjas could not touch in a lifetime. After the last arrival in Flickering, Ishida Shinkai's current divine power has accumulated more than 100 points again, so he plans to add some fighting power to his clansmen. Exchange for random draw. Ishida Xinkai gave instructions to the system in her heart. Ding. Consume 10 points of divine power to extract the talent and gain the ability of Blood Follower Limit. Line Escape. Line Escape. From the world of One Piece, the Devil Fruit ability used by Don Quixote da Flamingo can be used as a Blood Successor Limit to endow the tribe, so that the tribe has the String Fruit ability to escape the Blood Successor Limit. 37. Looking at the explanation of the new talent, Ishida Shinkai's heart suddenly twitched. Da Flamingo's String Fruit? What's going on? This can also extract the ability in One Piece. Ishida Xinkai stared, obviously agitated by this new talent. System, you come out. Why did you take out something from One Piece? Ishida Xinkai hurriedly asked the system in her heart. To be precise, it's not just something in the pirate world. The props and talents contained in the random lottery mechanism are not limited to this world. Ishida Shinkai's inquiry system has always been responsive, and this time is naturally no exception. That is to say, not only Hokage and pirates, but also other things? Ishida Shinkai's heart twitched again, obviously being stimulated again. By the way, you said there are still props? Suddenly, Ishida Xinkai seemed to catch the point and asked hurriedly with staring eyes. That's right, the random lottery includes items, status, and talents, all of which are random. The system continued to answer. If Ishida Xinkai did not ask or did not involve relevant questions, the system generally would not take the initiative to answer, but if asked, the system would give an answer immediately. Otherwise, even if the system told Ishida Xinkai all the functions and information at once, he would never remember it. In other words, those props belong to myriad realms. Ishida Xinkai frowned and said to himself, he probably already understood the lottery system. At this moment, Ishida Xinkai not only thought of the abilities of those elemental devil fruits and the bloodline of Superman Kryptonians, but also such terrifying props as Hogyoku, Avalon Scabbard, and Death Note. Thinking of any of these props that could subvert the entire ninja world, Ishida Xinkai felt his heart almost stop. Taking a deep breath, Ishida Xinkai glanced at her information bar. The rest of the status was still the same. What should be lacked was still lacking, except that she still had 100 points of divine power. Puff, keep pumping for me. Seeing that there was still 100 points of divine power, Ishida Xinkai's eyes turned red immediately, like a gambler possessed, and immediately said to the system in his heart. The appearance of the Lindun Shueji Jijia, which inherited the ability of String Fruit, undoubtedly gave Ishida Xinkai a boost. Ding! Consume 10 points of divine power to extract talent and get the Fire Nature Chakra ability. The first system prompt emerged from the mind, and Ishida Xinkai stared. Fire Nature Chakra. Give Fire Nature to ninjas who do not have Fire Nature Chakra. It doesn't even count as the limit of blood succession. It can only be used by ninjas who don't have the fire nature of chakra. Ishida Xinkai took a deep breath, glanced at the remaining 90 points of divine power, and said, continue. Ding. Consume 10 points of divine power to extract the props and get Yeshinu's signature pin. Yeshinu's signature pin. The signature pin used by the owner of Death Note, Yeshinue, has no special effect. Puff. Looking at the first prop he drew, Ishida Xinkai almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. Notes. Notes. What I want is the Death Note. Ishida Xinkai beat her chest, wishing she could pull out the system and beat her up. However, the appearance of the signature pin made Ishida Xinkai feel as if he was one step closer to Death Note. Pump. Keep pumping. Ishida Xinkai took a deep breath, and the top props and special talents that kept appearing in his mind made him continue to talk to the system. Ding. Consume 10 points of divine power to draw an item and get 4-star Dragon Ball. The system prompt appeared again, and at the same time, Ishida Xinkai saw a yellow-orange bead with 4 5-pointed red stars inside. 4-star Dragon Ball. Among the 7 Dragon Balls, the Dragon Ball is transformed into a dragon. After collecting all 7 Dragon Balls, you can summon the dragon and make a wish to it. Looking at the Dragon Ball, Ishida Xinkai had nothing to say, although he really wanted to ask the system why the Dragon Ball was not given as a set, but he knew it would be useless even if he said it. At this moment, he has gradually calmed down. In the past life plus this life, and the 30 years after his death, he has already lived for more than 100 years, and he understands it. He has drawn Sharingan and String Fruit. The threat escape is already very lucky, and now it is estimated that it is possessed by a non-chief, and it will not draw out any good things. Taking a look at the 70 points of divine power left, Ishida Xinkai paused for a moment. Although he could see through it, Ishida Xinkai still didn't dare. Let's do it again. Pursing her lips, Ishida Xinkai said lightly, although I guess that there might not be any good things, but a lottery draw is just like buying a lottery ticket. Even if God gives you a chance to win 5 million, the premise is that you have to buy a lottery ticket. Yes, although this lottery draw is tricky, but if you want good things, you still have to draw. As for the redemption in the ancestral spirit mall, looking at those blood succession limits that often require tens of thousands of divine powers to exchange, Ishida Xinkai suddenly felt that this lottery that only required 10 divine powers each time was really cheap. Ding. Consume 10 points of divine power to draw to the state and get strategy. The fourth system prompt appeared, causing Ishida Xinkai to roll his eyes. Okay, this time even the Dragon Ball is gone, Ishida Xinkai said helplessly. However, he still set his sights on the white jade-like light cluster. Strategy, status, can be used on clansmen. After using it, it can enhance their intelligence, decision-making ability, command ability, and social ability, and make clansmen have the courage to control the overall situation. 38. Early the next morning, Kitano Taro hurried to Ishida's old house. After Ishida Sorikari heard about Kitano Taro, he did not leave him in the master's study, but but appeared in the shrine with Kitano Taro. Since the last time Ishida Xinkai appeared, Ishida Xinkai has always felt that his ancestors are all there. So for some things that he is not sure about, he wants to let the ancestors hear. Maybe the ancestors can give yourself some advice. The Daming Mansion of Tenji Country was destroyed? Listening to the conversation between the two, Ishida Xinkai, who was sitting above the shrine, frowned. No wonder Ishida Sakari would come here to talk, probably because he wanted to help him out with ideas. Boy, the old man came to bother me even after he died. Your character is really not suitable for being the head of the family. After figuring out Ishida Sorikari's thoughts, Ishida Xinkai rolled his eyes. This guy's character is really not suitable for being the head of the house. It has nothing to do with him that Tianjigua's Daming Mansion was destroyed, and he doesn't even have to worry about who destroyed the Daming Mansion, because even if the Daming Mansion is not destroyed, his Ishida family will do it. Now it saves them a lot of trouble. He doesn't care if the Daming Mansion is destroyed, but Tenji Country will definitely be in chaos, and he needs a strong shot from the Ishida family here. Although in his opinion, Taian's Higuo is already in his pocket, but it still needs the Ishida family to make a decision. He doesn't want to use the power of the gods to descend every time something happens. That thing is not brought by the wind. But you are really lucky, your ancestor just got a good thing, and you can use it. Ishida Xinkai paused, then grinned again. What Ishida Xinkai said was that he got the status yesterday, strategizing. As the head of the clan, this thing is most suitable. Originally, Ishida Xinkai was still considering whether to choose a person suitable for a single head in the family, but now there is no need. Ishida Xinkai directly intends to test the waters with Ishida Kakari first. Using status, strategy, target, Patriarch Ishida Konkari. Ishida Xinkai gave an order in her heart, and the ball of bright jade in her mind disappeared instantly. At the same time, Ishida Sorikari, who was a little overwhelmed by the news brought by Kitano Taro, suddenly felt his heart move, and a sense of enlightenment appeared in his mind. At this moment, his thinking became extremely clear, and combined with what he knew so far, he came up with several feasible solutions. I see. Ishida Sorikari's thoughts were clear, and he quickly figured out the context of the incident and immediately expressed a sense of relief. Master Patriarch, do you already know what to do? Kitano Taro looked at Ishida Sora with a puzzled expression on his face. At this moment, he seemed to feel that the Patriarch had become a lot wiser. If Ishida Sora had given him the impression that he was a very powerful reckless man, now as a brave and resourceful overlord, you don't need to worry about this matter, just ensure the operation of Sinong City. In the future, Sinong City will be the holy city for my Ishida family. Ishida Sorikari's eyes were full of wisdom, and in a short time, he had already thought about the future direction of Ishida's family. This is not bad. This state is really good. Ishida Xinkai nodded in satisfaction. Judging from Ishida Sorikari's behavior, just a few words have already revealed a lot of information. The goal of Ishida's family is far more than Sinong City, and Sinong City will even become a more prosperous place than the capital in the future. All this information was not only captured by Ishida Xinkai, but even Taro Kitano understood it. Yes, Patriarch, I understand. Joy flashed in Kitano Taro's eyes. Originally, he was a little worried that the Daming Mansion would ask for help from the 5 major countries to suppress the Ishida family. Now that the Daming Mansion has been directly wiped out by an unknown force, he dispelled all his worries, and even in his heart he doubted the capital city of Daming Mansion. Could it be the ancestors of the Ishida family who did it over there? After all, when he was in Sinong City back then, he had seen with his own eyes the methods displayed by the old ancestor. Involuntarily, Kitano Taro raised his head and glanced at the shrine above, then knelt down and kowtowed in worship. Seeing Kitano Taro's actions, Ishida Sorikari was taken aback for a moment. Then his mind came to a realization again, and a dazed look appeared on his face. He was very aware of his previous stupid behaviors and thoughts, but he had changed so quickly, so he was naturally a little puzzled. Now that he saw Kitano Taro's actions, he also wondered if his ancestor had enlightened him just now. Otherwise, with my previous ability, it is absolutely impossible to think of so many clues. Involuntarily, Ishida Konkari also kowtowed to Ishida Xinkai. No matter how smart he is in his calculations, he will not be distracted by his family and ancestors. Ishida Konkari, whose intelligence and thinking ability has been improved, is also more and more concerned about his family. The old man in the shrine was shocked. Don't worry, ancestor, with me, Ishida Sorikari, the Ishida family will not fall. Taking a deep breath, Ishida Sorikari bowed upwards with a serious face. As for Ishida Xinkai, the more he watched, the more satisfied he became. Now this kid is much more pleasing to the eye than the previous idiot who only knew how to improve his strength. At least in Ishida Xinkai's heart, Ishida Sorikari's current ability is enough to be the head of the Ishida family. After all, no matter how powerful he is, having a stupid patriarch will always make him feel strenuous. Master Patriarch, there are a group of people who claim to be an underground money exchange. At this moment, Ishida Yongdu's voice sounded outside, making everyone in the shrine startled. Underground money exchange? Kitano Taro was a little surprised. He seemed to have heard this name before, but he just couldn't remember it. An underground organization sent people to assassinate my Ishida's family before. It is estimated that the information given by the Daming Mansion was very different, and the result was heavy losses. It should be that after their mission failed, they wiped out the Daming Mansion as their employer. Ishida Sorikari stood up and said calmly, just now he had guessed that it was this underground money exchange that destroyed the Daimyo Mansion. 39. Ishida Sorikari followed Ishida Yuto to the mansion, and found that Ishida Meimong was waiting at the door with the ninja of the Ishida family. And in front of them, there are 3 ninjas. The 3 ninjas have the forehead protectors of the fire, water, and thunder ninja villages respectively, but without exception, there is a scratch on them, and they are all rebels from the 3 ninja villages. 3 Jōnin, all from the 5 kingdoms. Ishida Sorikari looked at the 3 people in front of him, raised his brows, and thought to himself. The Underground Money Exchange Office accepts almost any mission, including the names of the 5 major countries and the shadows of various villages, making people guess that there may be a force not weaker than the 5 major countries behind the Underground Money Exchange Office. Otherwise, the 5 major powers would never allow such an organization to exist. However, Ishida Sora has always felt that there are shadows of the 5 major countries behind the Underground Money Exchange, because even if they offer rewards to each other, except for the 5 major countries themselves, other countries do not have the ability to hunt and kill the strong men in the major ninja villages. Hello, everyone in the Ishida family. We are all members of the Underground Money Exchange, and we were commissioned to release a reward for the Ishida family. The leader of a ninja with a Konoha rebel forehead protector saw Ishida Sora coming out, and immediately said in a refined and gentle voice, "We haven't looked for you yet, but you sent someone yourself." Looking at the 3 people in front of him, Ishida Sorikari sneered and said calmly. As Ishida Sorikari's voice fell, everyone in Ishida's family immediately put on a fighting posture. Through the words of the other party, some servants who later joined the Ishida family also understood that the other party was an enemy rather than a friend. Yes, last time because the information released by the employer was seriously wrong. Our mission failed and many elites were lost. We have already punished the employer as we should. The other party was also a bachelor, so he nodded directly and said calmly, "So, we are here this time to continue the task of erasing the Ishida family from Tanakuni." Konoha's rebellious ninja continued to say a sentence. Everyone thought that this guy was here to apologize for the first half of the sentence, but they didn't expect that the second half of the sentence immediately made everyone's heart sink. "There are only 3 of you. Can you be so confident?" Ishida Sorikari didn't continue to do it, but was testing the opponent's details. Ishida Xinkai added the state of strategizing, so that he is no longer as reckless as before. He has already considered that the other party may have relations with the 5 major countries, so he intends to infer the attitude of the 5 major countries towards them through the details of the other party, and it is better to make more suitable plans for Ishida's family in advance. 3 Jōnin enough? The other party seemed to have already figured out all the details of Ishida's family, and even Ishida Sokari's character, and had no defense against Ishida Sokari's inquiries. If the other 2 come, you are indeed qualified to say that you want to destroy my Ishida family, but it's a pity. Ishida Sorikari narrowed his eyes and continued to speak without a trace. Listening to Ishida Sorikari's words, everyone present was taken aback. The other 2? Ishida Yongdu and Ishida Meimong looked at their patriarch in surprise. And as if Ishida Sorikari's idea really hit the spot, Jōnin's expression changed in the front 3 underground money exchange offices. "Kill them all. Leave no one behind." Konoha Rebel, who was originally calm, also had a dignified expression on his face at this moment. The Underground Money Exchange Office is an underground organization with mixed dragons and snakes, and their background is indeed a ninja village in the 5 major countries. Because of the huge flow of funds in the Underground Money Exchange, the 5 major ninja villages were all moved. At the time of the first 5 shadow talks, not only the 1 country 1 village system and the distribution rights of the 9 big-tailed beasts were established, but the third thing was it's an underground money exchange. After all, The underground money exchange is controlled by a dark force and has done a lot of insane things. Even Senju Hashirama, who advocates peace and love, agreed to this proposal. After the meeting, the five shadows jointly eliminated the original forces behind the underground money exchange immediately and brought the underground money exchange into the joint management and control of the five major villages. They even sent people from the village to accept tasks from the underground money exchange that had nothing to do with the five major countries, increasing the income of the village. The other five major ninja villages each sent a Jōnin to sit in the underground money exchange office as a trader. No matter what happens in the five major countries, the five Jōnin from each major village must maintain the status quo and not be affected by the relationship between the countries. Rather than saying it is an underground money exchange, it is better to say that it is the money exchange of the five major ninja villages. Now they are the managers of the third underground money exchange, and almost all previous managers did not take much action. Only the countries that participated in the five Kage talks knew about this. A family in a small country like the Ishida family should not probably know, right? In the eyes of the three ninjas, the Ishida family was already in existence that must be eliminated. However, as soon as Konoha Rinin finished speaking, Ishida Meimong took the lead. Imprinted directly, the next moment, vines sprang out from the back of Ishida Meimong in an instant, like tentacles, and rushed towards the three of them. What? The three of them were startled and immediately retreated quickly. Boom! A burst of smoke rose from the ground, and a pit was directly smashed out where the three of them were standing just now. Blood inheritance boundary? The three of them were in the air, looking at the dense vines. Their expressions changed instantly. And Konoha's rebellious ninja widened his eyes even more. With style. How is this possible? Damn, Kakuzu didn't finish everything. Konoha Rinin cursed inwardly with an ugly face. But the next moment, the vines chased directly towards Konoha Rinin, and he had to bite the bullet and fight with Ishida Meimong. The other two quickly rushed towards the Ishida family. Ishida Sorikari jumped up and met Kirigakure's rebellious ninja. His eyes instantly turned blood red. Konoha's Sharingan? Why is there another blood succession limit? Looking at Ishida Sora's eyes, Kirigakure ninja was also taken aback, and he wondered if this was a trap deliberately set by Konoha. And the rebellious ninja from Cloud Shinobi Village retreated halfway and cautiously looked at Ishida Yongdu, who came out to fight. Are you also a Jōnin with blood succession limits? Watching Ishida Yudu, the Cloud Shinobi Village ninja frowned and asked cautiously. No, I'm just an ordinary Jōnin from Ishida's family. Ishida Yudo shook his head and said enviously. But the next moment, the voice of the ancestor of the Ishida family suddenly appeared in his mind. No, you have two. As Ishida Xinkai said, at the same time, he gave the thread to Ishida Yuto to use, and instilled his understanding of the moves of Doflamingo's string fruit applications to Ishida Yuto. 40. Ishida Shinkai's voice sounded in Ishida Yudu's heart, making him startled suddenly. Master Ancestor? Pausing for a moment, recalling the sound just now, Ishida Yudu suddenly moved in his heart. Immediately afterwards, a memory that did not belong to him appeared in Ishida Yudo's mind. That memory merged with Ishida Yudo's own memory in an instant, and in an instant, he also understood what kind of ability was added in his body. Thank you, Lord Ancestor, for the gift. Ishida Yongdu's heart beat faster, and there was indescribable admiration and emotion in his eyes. Although he is a retainer of the Ishida family, he is an outsider after all. Ishida Xinkai can help him and let his strength go further. It is definitely a great honor. So for both Ishida Konkari and Ishida Meimong, he is just envious of the blood succession limit, and he has no disobedience. But now, the ancestors of Ishida's family actually gave him the limit of blood inheritance. For Ishida Xinkai, he already absolutely believed, even if the voice appeared suddenly, even the so-called line escape was very abrupt, but he didn't doubt it at all. Here, the rebel from Cloud Shinobi Village was relieved when he heard that Ishida Sakari had no blood succession limit. It's just a family of a small country. I am the one who is cautious. Taking a deep breath, Cloud Shinobi quickly relaxed, and then sneered. Only Chakra has reached the Jōnin-level, which is far from the real Jōnin-yu. The next moment, Cloud Shinobi drew a long sword from his waist and flew towards Ishida Yuto. Cloud Shinobi Village is a martial arts village, not only Grandmaster Lightning style, but also swordsmanship and physique. In particular, Double Lariat, the secret ninjutsu of the Land of Thunder created by Second Raikage, has made many ninjas fearful. That Cloud Shinobi's movements were fast, and he rushed to Ishida Yuto in an instant. and the shining blade was slashed towards the unarmed Ishida Yuto. For a moment, Ishida Yuto woke up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Looking at the blade, the method of controlling the line escape quickly emerged in his mind. Ishida Yongdu did not hesitate and directly swiped his hands in front of his body, pulling out countless fine silk threads and blocking them. The silk thread just wants to block my attack? Cloud Shinobi, who was cutting down with a knife, also saw the silk thread in Ishida Yuto's hand for the first time and immediately said with a sneer. But the next moment, the smile on his face froze. Because his invincible blade looked at the silk thread at this moment and did not cut it off, but those silk threads gave him a feeling as hard as steel. Ishida Yuto was also taken aback, but he reacted immediately. His hands staggered back and forth, and the silk thread in his hands instantly entangled and imprisoned the opponent's blade. Immediately afterwards, Ishida Yuto bent the index fingers of both hands slightly below the thumbs. The moment Ishida Yongdu made this action, Cloud Shinobi's heart was instantly enveloped by a strong crisis. Not good. With an exclamation in his heart, that Cloud Shinobi quickly gave up the blade in his hand and quickly backed away. Line escape, bullet string. There is no need for not Madra at all. Ishida Yongdu is just a thought, which prompts the index finger to be quickly ejected according to the release method in memory, and 2 silk threads quickly emerge from the fingertip of the index finger. 2 silk threads shot out like bullets. One of them was dodged by that Cloud Shinobi, but the other shot out by rubbing against that Cloud Shinobi's shoulder. There seemed to be a powerful force mixed with the silk thread, and even if Cloud Shinobi was only scratched, it seemed as if he had suffered a heavy blow, and his backward body was directly sent flying backwards. Boom! Boom! There were 2 consecutive roars, and the ground in the distance exploded almost simultaneously, leaving behind 2 craters with a diameter of 1 meter. Here, what did Master Yongdu just use? The servants of Ishida's family stared wide-eyed at the back. The attack just happened in an instant, and they didn't even have time to see what happened. That Cloud Shinobi fell to the ground, and the bones under the skin could already be seen on the shoulders scratched by the silk threads. The excruciating pain made that Cloud Shinobi couldn't help gritting his teeth. What was that thread just now? Cloud Shinobi stared fixedly at the long sword wrapped in the air in front of Ishida Yuto, gritted his teeth and asked Ishida Yuto, "Silk?" Hearing Cloud Shinobi's inquiry, the servants of Ishida's family were taken aback and looked towards Ishida Yuto in surprise. They also passed the blade hanging in front of Ishida Yuto as if covered by delicate silk threads. To be entangled. This makes everyone feel unbelievable. The long swords of Cloud Shinobi Village are all good. Chakra conductive metal can be injected into chakra to greatly enhance the sharpness. I have never heard of silk threads that can block the cutting of chakra to metal weapons. This is thread escape. Ishida Yongdu didn't expect that he could release such a powerful ninjutsu without even needing a seal, and his eyes couldn't help being full of joy, and he didn't hide the other party's inquiry. After finishing speaking, the silk thread in Ishida Yongdu's hand quickly spread out, and finally there was only 1 thread left, and then he pulled it with both hands. Kong! The long sword let out a clear sword cry, and then it was cut off from the middle. In the eyes of others, Ishida Yongdu seemed to be performing a trick, and most people couldn't see how the long sword broke. Although without the chakra injection, the long sword is no different from an ordinary iron sword, but Ishida Yuto was able to use it like a magic trick, which is really incredible. Xiandan, damn it, you still say you don't have a blood inheritance boundary? Cloud Shinobi's face turned green and then pale after hearing Ishida's words, and finally couldn't help shouting in a deep voice. It is the ability that the ancestors gave me after you asked me. Ishida Yuto smiled slightly, and when he spoke, his eyes were full of admiration. He didn't want to answer the other party, but wanted to tell the servants of the Ishida family like himself that the Ishida family they are loyal to and the ancestors they worship are really omnipotent. At this time, Ishida Xinkai discovered that Ishida Yongdu's body seemed to emit light, but it was not very obvious, and it was impossible to see it without looking carefully. 41. Here, Ishida Meimong and Ishida Konkari are inseparable from their respective enemies. The blood inheritance boundary displayed by the two made each other feel familiar, but they couldn't figure it out. Whether it is with style chakra or Sharingan, they all have an indelible impression on the 5 major countries. However, Senju Hashirama, who appeared with Wood style ninjutsu, and Uchiha Madara, who appeared in Mangekyo Sharingan, are already from the last era. Even if Konoha's ninja and Mist Ninja have combat experience and skills, they can't help them at all. In addition, after the last Kakuzu incident, Ishida Maemong dragged Ishida across the training tower every day like a chicken blood, and now he can be said to be a real Jonin, and the Konoha shinobi can even do it close to Ishida Maemong less than. And Ishida Yongdu's words quickly took effect among the retainers of the Ishida family. Everyone's eyes widened, showing a sudden look. Sure enough, it is the ancestors. Besides my ancestors of the Ishida family, who can lower the blood succession limit for us. All the servants of the Ishida family blushed with excitement. As the representative of the servants of the Ishida family, Ishida Yongdu can receive the same treatment as the members of the Ishida family. This also shows that as long as they are sincerely loyal, the ancestors of the Ishida family there will be no stinginess with them. For a moment, the worries in the hearts of those servants disappeared, and the loyalty to the Ishida family and the worship of Ishida Xinkai became more stable. Even some newly joined servants have improved their belief in Ishida Xinkai, and more than a dozen people have even reached the level of fanatical worship. Ancestor of the Ishida family? Are you kidding me? Can the dead be brought back to life? How stupid. Listening to Ishida Yongdu's explanation, Cloud Shinobi's face turned green and red, thinking that these people were playing tricks on him, and immediately reprimanded him. He has also heard about what happened in Sinong City, but the so-called Ancestor resurrection scene, in the eyes of the ninjas, is nothing more than a simple trick. As long as the Grandmaster transformation technique can do it, it is just to fool ordinary people means only. Saying that, Cloud Shinobi took a distressed look at the saber that had been with him for many years that was broken by Ishida Yuto, glared at Ishida Yuto, and then took out a long sword from his waist again. However, that Cloud Shinobi didn't know. His words directly made all the servants of the Ishida family present look down. As servants of the Ishida family, they have already given enough loyalty to the Ishida family, and they are even more like their own ancestors to the ancestors of the Ishida family. Of course, they are all filled with righteous indignation when they hear such slander from the other party. Ishida Yongdu waved his hand to stop the servants who were about to rush forward. You are not his opponents. Leave it to me. I will let him personally kowtow in front of the ancestor shrine to make amends. Ishida Yongdu's face was gloomy. He had already surrendered to Ishida Xinkai, and he would never allow anyone to insult Ishida Xinkai. At this moment, he looked at Cloud Shinobi opposite him, as if he was watching the killing of his father and enemy. This guy, facing Ishida Yongdu's cold eyes, Cloud Shinobi's heart tightened for no reason. He didn't understand why the other party suddenly used this expression. However, the next moment, he wanted to understand, and his heart was instantly filled with anger. You want to die. With a cold reprimand, Cloud Shinobi charged over again. And Ishida Yongdu was also serious this time, and quickly browsed through the moves in his mind, many of which he couldn't release at the moment, but they were enough to deal with the enemies in front of him. Bullet string. With a low murmur, Ishida Yuto stretched out his index finger again, and two thin lines flew out instantly. But this time, Cloud Shinobi was already prepared. Although he couldn't catch the attack threat of the opponent, he was sure that Ishida Yuto's attack was aimed at his current self, so he jumped up directly. But watching the opponent jump up, Ishida Yuto did not show a look of loss. He is also a veteran ninja after all. How could he put both attacks in the same position? Looking at the leaping Cloud Shinobi, Ishida Yongdu's eyes flashed a trace of sarcasm. His hands and fingers were spread apart, and he slid quickly in front of him without any rules. No one except Ishida Xinkai knew what he was doing. Oops. Noticing the sarcasm in Ishida Yuto's eyes for a moment, Cloud Shinobi was startled for an instant, and at the same time, he also saw a bright line of reflection in front of him, which was aimed at himself in midair. But he was in midair, and there was no way to dodge. Whoosh! The thin line instantly hit Cloud Shinobi's waist, directly piercing through his side, but because Ishida Yuto prejudged the blind shot, it was an accident that he could hit it, but it did not cause any fatal injuries. Cloud Shinobi paused, but did not retreat, but continued to kill Ishida Yongdu. He knew very well that the move just now was too weird. If the opponent kept shooting silk threads from a distance, I can't handle it at all. This time, Cloud Shinobi learned to be smart. Instead of slashing, he directly chose to stab. He knew very well that the silk thread could block his slashing with the help of angle, but it had no effect on the sharp sword stabbing. Apparently, the others felt the same way. Seeing Cloud Shinobi approaching, the servants of the Ishida family tensed up. Closer. Some people subconsciously called out. Seeing the sword approaching, everyone became more nervous, and even Ishida Xinkai narrowed his eyes. This kid is using parasite string for the first time. Is it okay? Ishida Xinkai narrowed his eyes, looked at Ishida Yuto's hands with bulging veins, and murmured curiously, Go away. At this time, Ishida Yudo let out a loud shout and quickly bent the fingers of both hands down as if they were manipulating a doll. At the same time, that cloud shinobi felt as if all the joints of his body were being pulled by a strong force, and his wrist involuntarily deflected away from the blade for stabbing. 42. Watching his attack fall apart, that Cloud Shinobi's face suddenly changed. What's going on? Cloud Shinobi's eyes widened. That was clearly his killing blow just now, but it would fail in this way. At that moment, that Cloud Shinobi wondered if he had been hit by an illusion. But then, he found that not only the attack just now, but as his body was tensed everywhere, his body quickly escaped his control. I only felt that my body was like a puppet controlled by someone, and I grabbed the long sword step by step and turned to the battlefield of the Kirin who was facing Ishida Yudo. Whoosh! Without the slightest hesitation, Cloud Shinobi charged forward with his long sword in hand. Seeing Cloud Shinobi from the money exchange station come to help the other party, Ishida Sorikari was a little surprised. Ordinarily, this guy should be fighting Ishida Yuto, but soon he noticed the silk thread tied to that Cloud Shinobi with the Sharingan. What is this? Ishida Sora was startled and quickly looked at the other end of the silk thread and saw Ishida Yuto is manipulating the silk thread. The puppetry of the Kingdom of Wind? Immediately afterwards, Ishida Sorikari murmured, for some reason, the silk threads that Ishida Yudo used did not seem to be like the Chakra silk threads used in pure puppetry. Seeing his companion approaching, Kiranin didn't have the slightest doubt, but was still wary of Ishida Sora. Ishida Konkari, who owns the Sharingan, even if he doesn't use the ability that the Sharingan comes with, the Fog Ninja has no power to fight back. Be careful with his eyes, if I'm not mistaken. It should be the Sharingan of the Konoha Uchiha clan. Staring at the front of Ishida Sora without taking his eyes off at the same time, Kiranin reminded him. But the next moment he heard the terrified voice of that Cloud Shinobi. No, get out of the way. Cloud Shinobi yelled, and at the same time, holding the long sword in both hands, he stabbed towards the Mist Ninja. What? Hearing Cloud Shinobi's yell, Wu Ninja turned his head to look, just in time to see that the other party was stabbing him. So scared that Wu Shinobi quickly dodged sideways, but the sharp long sword still pierced his arm. Kiri Ninja flew back and distanced himself from Cloud Shinobi with an angry expression on his face. Are you crazy? Facing Cloud Shinobi, Kirito gritted his teeth and asked angrily. No, not me. My body is out of control. Cloud Shinobi was also extremely terrified at the moment, and inadvertently caught a glimpse of Ishida Yudo's twitching fingers, and he immediately understood. It's that guy. He's controlling my body. Cloud Shinobi's eyes widened, and he said in a startled voice, his face even more frightened, because he found that even if he used Chakra, he couldn't get rid of the fate of being controlled. He has fought with the puppet masters of the Kingdom of the Wind, and the Chakra threads of those guys can be broken by using Chakra, but this guy's threads are directly wrapped around his body forcibly, and they are forcibly controlling him with Force Body. He couldn't imagine what kind of person could forcibly control a Jonin's actions. Is that guy a Reikage Sama-like existence? Eyes widened, Cloud Shinobi thought with some trepidation, but he quickly dispelled this idea. If it really is the existence of Kage-level, it is impossible for the 5 major congresses to have no news at all and even send people to fight against each other. But no matter what, his body has indeed been controlled by others, and at this moment he has raised his sword again and stabbed towards the Mist Ninja. Damn it! Wu Ninja's face changed, and he also found that his companion seemed to be controlled by someone. Kiri Ninja set his eyes on Ishida Yuto, intending to interrupt the opponent's control, but was immediately blocked by Ishida Sora. Oops. Kirijinin's face became gloomy, and he realized that what he had to face at once were 3 Jonins. However, Ishida Yongdu didn't give him time to think, and he had already manipulated Cloud Shinobi to rush up. At the same time, he himself was not idle. Instead, he was also approaching the Fog Ninja. Ishida Konkari also wanted to see what kind of ability Ishida Yongdu had, but instead of rushing to do it, he carried out a sweeping formation beside him. Ishida Yongdu is not at all like those puppet masters in the Kingdom of the Wind. Instead, he rushed forward directly like Taijutsu Ninja. Wu Ninja looked at Ishida Yudo's actions, and his face suddenly became happy. I saw the other party pinch the seal quickly, and the surrounding area instantly began to be filled with white mist. It's Kirigakure's Mist Shinobi technique. Looking at the white mist, all the ninjas present recognized that it was Kirigakure's signature ninjutsu. Kiranin's body melted into the white mist, and ordinary people couldn't see it at all, but Ishida Sorikari was able to capture the flow of the mist with Sharingan's keen perception, and infer the opponent's position. What are you going to do? Looking at Ishida Yuto, Ishida Sakari said with some expectation. After seeing Ishida's brave crossing ability, he has already started to make arrangements. He wants to arrange every member of the tribe to the most suitable position for them to make the best use of them. However, Ishida Yudo stopped outside the fog and did not enter the fog. I saw Ishida Sakari manipulating the parasite string with one hand to pull the cloud shinobi out of the mist. At the same time, he stretched his palm back and sprayed out dozens of almost transparent thin silk threads from his palm, and then released these. The silk threads are twisted together to form a thick strand-like hair. Afterwards, Ishida Yudo was seen slamming forward. The huge wire post was quickly thrown vertically forward. Super hit whip. Schwa. The line pillar was cut vertically from the white mist, like a sharp white on cutting through the mist instantly. It hit the ground, and even the ground was cut into a gully tens of meters long. And in front of the gully, there was a figure with only half of his body left. It was the mist shinobi technique that had just been released, and was planning to approach Ishida Yudo in the fog. On the way close, he never expected Ishida Yudo to release such a move, and was cut in half on the spot. 43. Seeing that Ishida Yudo just used a move, not only broke through the opponent's white mist, but even killed the opponent directly in the white mist, everyone was stunned for a moment. Even Ishida Xinkai was surprised. Ishida Xinkai didn't expect that he just spent 10 points of divine power to copy his knowledge of string fruit to Ishida Yuto. This guy actually mastered a few moves so quickly. I have to say, Ishida Yudo's adaptation the ability gave him a big surprise. It seems that the string with all the string fruits was given to the wrong person. Ishida Xinkai grinned, happy with her choice. At the same time, he is also looking forward to other devil fruits. Ishida Xinkai knows all about the abilities of string fruit, but it doesn't mean that other people also know. What was that move just now? Master Yongdu didn't even pinch the seal. Is that a ninjutsu? Several servants of the Ishida family glanced at each other with disbelief on their faces. Even Ishida Sakari looked at Ishida Yuto and was taken aback by his means just now, because even he couldn't be sure what the ability was. Originally, he thought that Ishida Yongdu would know the puppet art of the Land of Winds, but those chakra lines of the Land of Winds puppet masters are just lines. But what Ishida Yongdu showed was as sharp as a steel blade. If the puppet masters in the Kingdom of Wind were so powerful, they would have overthrown the Kingdom of Fire long ago. At the same time, the movement here also immediately attracted the attention of the Konoha shinobi. I saw that he quickly abandoned the net and approached Ishida Maimong, and glanced slightly in the direction of Ishida Yuto, just in time to see the corpse of Kiranin falling down. Outside the fog, Cloud Shinobi knelt on the ground as if paralyzed, showing a horrified expression. He knew very well that when he was attacking Ishida bravely just now, the opponent definitely had a chance to release this move, and if he faced this move, he couldn't resist it at all, and he must have been cut in two like the mist ninja halfway. What's going on? Konoha's ninja's expression changed. He was just dodging those vines and didn't notice what happened on the battlefield. Blood successor limits? They all have blood successor limits. Get out of here quickly. No matter what, I have to bring back the news of Ishida's family. The person who was looking at Konoha Shinobi looked towards him. Cloud Shinobi, who was already desperate, seemed to see hope and shouted loudly that he must tell the news here. Once the Ishida family rises, the closest the Kingdom of Fire and the Kingdom of Thunder will definitely be impacted. He is very clear that he is now controlled by those threads, and it is impossible to escape, and the only one who can leave is the Konoha Shinobi. What? The ninja Konoha was stunned for a moment. Although he was puzzled, he didn't ask any more questions. After a pause, he immediately turned and fled. The opponents of Ishida Konkari and Ishida Yongdu are dying, and Ishida Maimong also has a dignified expression. He doesn't want his opponent to run away. Wood style, deadly wooden vine. With a low shout, Ishida Maimong flicked his hands forward, and the vines instantly turned into long dragons, quickly catching up with the Konoha Shinobi and crushing them. Not enough white smoke flashed, but the ninja turned into a piece of wood. But the Konoha Shinobi had fled in the other direction. Oops. Unexpectedly, what he was chasing was actually a stand-in. Ishida Maimong's complexion suddenly darkened. He can't escape. Ishida Xinkai floated down from above, wanted to pat Ishida Maimong on the shoulder, but went straight through, then shook his head helplessly and said with a smile. As Ishida Shinkai's voice fell, Ishida Sakari's right pupil turned rapidly. Ishida Konkari's life mark only has an effective range of 50 meters. If it is farther away, it needs to own the tissues of the opponent, such as blood, nails, hair, etc. When only the Konoha shinobi was left, Ishida Sakari had already marked the life of that Konoha shinobi, so even if the opponent had already run hundreds of meters, Ishida Sakari was not worried. Yama. Ishida Sakari's maiden voyage quickly surged with a dark black flame, which turned into a long bow, and then Ishida Sakari raised his index finger and pulled the bowstring, and an arrow appeared out of nowhere. By the time Ishida Sakari shot the arrow, he could no longer see the opponent, but the arrow still chased it out. At this moment, after a wild run, the Konoha shinobi looked back and found that none of the Ishida's ninjas had caught up. He was relieved and quickly found a cover to hide. With style, Sharingan. This news must be reported to Lord Hokage. Taking a deep breath, the Konoha shinobi said nervously. At the same time, he took out a command scroll from his waist and quickly summoned a ninja hawk. And the ninja carved a code word that only Konoha shinobi can understand on Ninja Hawk's leg ring at the fastest speed. Tanakuni Ishida's house, found Sharingan and wood, but at this moment, he seemed to hear a burst of air. What sound? The Konoha shinobi was stunned for a moment and subconsciously looked for the reputation, but saw an arrow burning with black flames enlarged in his field of vision. The next moment, the arrow pierced his forehead, but it didn't directly kill him, but directly penetrated the forehead protector on the ninja's forehead. The moment it pierced the skin, it quickly turned into black talismans. One quickly swam towards his heart. The Konoha shinobi found that he was not dead and touched his forehead again, but the arrow did not leave any traces because the rune entered from the center of his eyebrows, and he did not find the existence of the rune at all. I'm so nervous. The Konoha shinobi shook his head, intending to continue to seal the code words, but as if being strangled by the neck in an instant, the Konoha shinobi's body shook suddenly. Immediately afterwards, a mouthful of blood spurted out, and the look in his eyes instantly lost. And the ninja quickly broke free from the ninja's grasp and flew back in the direction of Konoha with the unfinished information of the Konoha shinobi. 44. Ishida Kongsho shot Yen Luo's soul-chasing arrow, and everyone in Ishida's family knew that the other party was dead. And this time, among the 3 Jōnin attacks sent by the Underground Money Exchange, only Cloud Shinobi was still alive, but at the moment his body was controlled by Ishida Yudo, he couldn't do it even if he wanted to commit suicide. At this moment, that Cloud Shinobi was pale, with despair in his eyes. He still doesn't know that the Konoha shinobi is dead, and he only hopes that the other party can bring back the news here as soon as possible, so that the 5 major countries will send people to suppress the Ishida family. They have been deceived by this low-key family for a long time. Blood successors are rare in themselves. Even Kirigakure's blood successors can hardly appear 3 Jōnin at one time. The Ishida family has already planned all this. What do you want to do? Seeing the 3 of Ishida Sakari approaching, Cloud Shinobi wanted to resist, but the silk thread on his body was firmly imprisoning his body, and he couldn't break free with his own strength. Ishida Maemong frowned, intending to directly understand the other party's life, but was stopped by Ishida Yudo. Please wait a moment. This guy slandered the ancestors. I want him to repent in front of the ancestors, Ishida Yongdu said with an angry face, still brooding over what Cloud Shinobi said just now. Slandering the ancestors? Hearing Ishida Yongdu's words, both Ishida Sakari and Ishida Maemong's expressions darkened. Break his legs and let him kneel outside the shrine of the ancestors for the rest of his life. Ishida Sorakari nodded, said something, and turned to leave. Insulting me? Don't even think about it. Hearing Ishida Sorakari's words, Cloud Shinobi's face changed, and he immediately yelled angrily, biting the poison sac under his tongue, and after a while, he lost his breath. I didn't expect that the ninjas of the 5 major countries would have such backhands. Seeing that Cloud Shinobi's breath was gone, Ishida Maemong frowned and said, Dead. I can also make him kneel in front of the ancestors' shrine forever. Ishida Yuto, who was next to him, watched the ninja commit suicide. His face was a little ugly, and he said something in a deep voice. In the hearts of the 3, Ishida Xinkai is already a supreme existence, representing their glory in this life, and naturally they will not allow anyone to tarnish it easily. Not long after, a bronze figure appeared outside the shrine of Ishida's family. That bronze figure was the Cloud Shinobi who had committed suicide. Although kneeling in front of a dead man made of copper all day long made people feel uncomfortable, but thinking that he was also a dead man now, Ishida Xinkai didn't say much. However, I have to say that Ishida's courageous performance today has made the faith of Ishida's family servants more stable. Ishida Xinkai believes that these servants will one day reach the level of surrender to themselves. Time passed day by day. Things in Sinong City gradually settled down, but the news that the Daming Mansion in the capital city was overturned overnight set off a big wave inside and outside Tianji. Countless offshoots with the blood of the Tanaka family rushed back to the capital. For 3 consecutive days, there was a bloodbath inside and outside the capital. In the end, a branch of the Tanaka family named Shinji Tanaka succeeded in becoming the new daimyo with the support of the old ministers of the daimyo mansion. On the day the new daimyo took office, the other party directly pushed all the responsibility for the destruction of the original daimyo mansion to the Ishida family, insisting that it was the Ishida family who, after occupying Sinong City and coveting the capital, sent people to destroy the daimyo mansion first. Moreover, Shinji Tanaka declared that he had summoned the troops of Tanakuni and would soon suppress the Ishida family. As soon as such news came out, Tianjigwa was in an uproar immediately. Anyone with a discerning eye can immediately see that Tanaka Shinji is just a puppet supported by the major families in the capital, and the sudden rise of the Tanaka family undoubtedly overturned the jobs of too many people, and even the execution of the aristocrat Tian Zhonghui has been in the capital all the time. The hearts of the nobles were like a dark cloud. They are afraid that one day they will become the ghosts of the Tanaka family, so they plan to suppress the Ishida family directly with the power of the whole country. Such news also reached the ears of Ishida's family. All of the people in Sinong City were panicked. They believe that the Ishida family is invincible under the blessing of Ishida's ancestors, but they are also a little worried that the stable life they have just gained will be broken again. My lord, this is the latest news. For the sake of safety, Ishida's family should move into Sinong City. Kitano Taro said in front of Ishida Sakari with a cautious face in Ishida Sakari's study. Since the last time, he found that the patriarch has become more and more unpredictable, as if the Ishida Sorakari he knew before was all deliberately disguised by him. Being not, Ishida Sorakari shook his head. However, according to the news, the other party may dispatch an army of more than 100,000. Kitano Taro is still a little worried. After all, he is now a member of the Ishida family, and the Ishida family is his reliance. Concerned about the safety of Ishida's family. 100,000 troops, the entire Tian kingdom has only 1 million people, which can be said to be all the troops of the Tian kingdom, and the total army of Sinan City plus the guarding soldiers is only 20,000. Facing an army of 100,000 people, even Jōnin would be heaped to death. More importantly, those nobles paid a lot of money to hire many powerful warriors from the Iron Country. Those guys may not be able to compare with the ninjutsu of the Jōnin, but the ability to lead troops to fight is definitely top-notch. Although there are no ninjas in the country, as the country with the longest history, the Iron Country has a very important presence all over the world. It is even more able to have a dialogue with the 5 major countries and maintain neutrality among the tyrannical 5 major countries. The 5 major countries have even declared that no ninjas will be allowed to fight within the territory of the Country of Iron. It is enough to see that the Country of Iron is not as good as the 5 major countries, but it is not a small country like Tianjigwa can be compared. 45. The news that Tianjigwa will send 100,000 troops to directly suppress the Ishida family soon became known to everyone. People inside and outside Sinong City are panic-stricken, and no one knows what the future of Sinong City will be like. The people of Sinong City don't understand why such peace should be broken. And some wealthy gentry in Sinong City who hadn't shown up all the time were happy at home. It has to be said that the policy of the Ishida family has violated the rights and interests of too many wealthy families, which makes them have to choose to boycott the Ishida family for their own interests. At this moment, in Ishida's mansion, Ishida Xinkai is still relatively calm. This whole country of Tanaka was built by him together with the ancestors of the Tanaka family. The ancestors of the Tanaka family swore that the Tanaka family would never be enemies with the Ishida family, otherwise the Tanaka family would be doomed. Even if Tianjigwa wants to suppress Ishida's family with the whole country, in Ishida Shinkai's view, it is just a child who grows up and wants to rebel against Laozi. That being the case, then just kill this child and replace him with someone who is obedient, and directly destroying the Tanaka family can be regarded as fulfilling his old friend's oath. Your child is going to kill my whole family, even if it is the best old friend. I will let you die. Since the last time, people have been going to worship at the Ishida Shrine in Sinong City every day. In particular, the patriarch of the Matsumoto family rebuilt the Matsumoto family on the original site. Because it is relatively close to the shrine, he has to visit the shrine every morning and before going to bed to be at ease. I am afraid that one day Ishida Xinkai will kill him if he is dissatisfied. Moreover, after Kitano Taro took over the army of Sinong City again, Combined with Kitano Taro's inexorable freedom and Ishida Shinkai's miracles, 80% of the army samurai directly became Ishida Xinkai's loyal followers. The value of the incense offered by the army of Sinong City alone has reached 200 points every day. Half a month later, Ishida Xinkai's remaining 60 points of divine power from drawing rewards has now become more than 300 points. Ancestral Spirit, Ishida Xinkai, Weakness, Spiritual Power, 314, can be used to exchange items in the Ancestral Spirit Mall, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Spiritual Servant, 0, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Sacred Shrine, 3, extremely scarce. Please add immediately. Incense Value, 53, can be converted into Divine Power, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Homeowner, 1 family population, 371. Ishida Xinkai smiled happily as he looked at the 3 digits behind the divine power on his information panel. More than 300 points of divine power are at least enough for him to forcibly spawn 10 Jōnin directly. Of course, he didn't intend to do that. He is very clear that it is simply that the amount of chakra has reached the level of Jōnin, and it is not a real Jōnin at all, such as Ishida Meimong. The rebellion of the Kagaya family, the fighting power shown is far from the real Jōnin. Even Ishida Youngdu, who was only at the Chunin level at the beginning, may not be comparable. After all, Ishida Meimong's ninja foundation is really poor, especially in terms of fighting skills and ninjutsu control, even the Chunin of the 5 major countries. Ishida Xinkai noticed the performance of Ishida Meimong. Although Ishida Meimong's progress was rapid and her strength was already comparable to that of a normal Jōnin, it also made Ishida Xinkai see the disadvantages of forcing the birth of a Jōnin. Without the absolute safety of the family being guaranteed, Ishida Xinkai does not plan to give birth to Jōnin on a large scale for the time being. Suddenly, Ishida Xinkai's face changed, and he looked in the direction of the gate of Ishida's mansion. Then the body quickly rose into the air and looked outside the mansion. Now, a group of uniformed samurai arrives outside Ishida's house. Those warriors were all dressed in rattan armor and headbands. Each of them looked brave and extraordinary, but it was not difficult to see that they all looked a little alike. Judging from the unified family crest on their arms, they were obviously from the same family of. Hello, Mifune of the Iron Country, please see Patriarch Ishida. The leader had thick eyebrows and big eyes, with sharp edges and corners on his resolute face, and the bravery on his body made the 2 servants of Ishida's house guarding the door feel frightened. Those warriors all looked calm. Mifune was the name of their ancestors, and the ancestors established the ancestral precepts before they died. Not only the youngest generation in the family wanted to call themselves Mifune. If they are lucky enough to meet Ishida's family in the future, they will all call themselves Mifune. But they don't know that the reason for this is that Ishida Xinkai agreed to take their ancestors to practice because of this name. 3 boats? I said, why is it so similar? It turns out that he is the descendant of that kid. I didn't expect that guy to be able to spread his branches and leaves in the Iron Kingdom. Looking at a dozen or so samurai standing outside the door, who may or may not look similar, Ishida Xinkai shook his head and said. After becoming an ancestor spirit, Ishida Xinkai's eyes and ears are extremely keen, especially around the shrine, as if it is his own domain. As long as there is any movement, he can feel it immediately. However, he didn't feel that the other party was the Mifune he had known. After so many years, the other party must be dead. However, there are more than a dozen junior men, which is really enviable. After a pause, he looked at the samurai and thought of his own family. Apart from the patriarch, Ishida Konkari, the only grown-up men were Ishida Meimong and Ishida. There are 2 friends. Ishida Xinkai couldn't help but said enviously. Who doesn't want their family to flourish? Ishida Xinkai wished that all the people in the world would be his descendants. Those people more or less have some common characteristics, which gradually overlap with the immature face in Ishida Xinkai's mind. 3 boats is the name Ishida Xinkai remembers. At that time, the other party was just a farm boy who was attacked by bandits. Because of this name, Ishida Xinkai, who challenged everywhere in the country of iron, took it as his student and brought him. Then he asked the martial arts masters of the Iron Country everywhere, and that Mifune also learned a lot. But Ishida Xinkai's complexion paused, remembering the hot-tempered girl she met in the Iron Country back then, and finally stopped dealing with the Iron Country. Stinky boy, you didn't come to tell Lousy if you didn't die at the time, and you and I will feel guilty for the rest of your life. Cursing his lips, Ishida Xinkai said with a smile, but the sad memories of the past flooded into his heart, making his nose a little sore. Not long after, Ishida Sorikari arrived outside Ishida's house surrounded by his servants. 46. As soon as Ishida Sorikari came out, he looked at the samurai in front of him with a strange expression. When he was young, he and his younger brother heard that his father once received a student named Mifune in the Iron Country, but the Sanfune was older than his father, and these did not look like his ancestor students. Who are you? Anyway, since the other party reported directly, Ishida Sorikari asked politely, Hello, patriarch of the Ishida family, our ancestor is named Mifune, and he was a student of the ancestor of the Ishida family. The old man taught his ancestors that if the descendants of the Ishida family are in trouble, they must help them with all their strength. The leader was much younger than Ishida Sorikari, probably only in his 30s. The other party looked at Ishida Sorikari with a calm expression and said without saying a word. As a samurai family in the country of iron, they all valued the ancestral training of their ancestors very much. And he knew that when his old man Mifune heard the news of the death of the ancestor of the Ishida family, he cried a lot. But in the end, he couldn't survive the grief, and he also passed away. The person at the head knew very well that if it wasn't for the ancestral teachings of their ancestors, they would never have any intersection with this Ishida family in this life. After the death of their ancestors, they, as descendants, paid little attention to the Ishida family. If Tianjigwa hadn't directly announced to the whole country to suppress the Ishida family, they would not have known that the Ishida family had reached such a critical moment. Sure enough, they are descendants of the ancestors' students. Looking at the strong warriors in front of him, Ishida Sorikari was stunned. If it wasn't for the awakening and blessing of his ancestors, their Ishida family would be far inferior to the current group of people. My name is Ishida Dadong, and it is the third generation of 3 boats. I heard that the Ishida family built a shrine for the ancestors of the Ishida family. We hope to worship on behalf of the predecessors. Before Ishida Sorikari continued to speak, the leader of the samurai spoke again, with a sonorous and powerful spirit, much stronger than Sasaki Ichiro, who came to encircle and suppress Ishida's family. What surprised Ishida's family enough was that the other party's surname was also Ishida. Noticing the doubts of Ishida's servants and clansmen, the leader immediately explained. My grandfather never mentioned his surname. He said that he was saved by Ishida's ancestors. When he had the opportunity to meet Ishida's family in the future, he took the surname Ishida. The most outstanding person in each generation was named Mifune until he was replaced by a more outstanding generation. Mifune learned from Admiral, the land of iron. The leading middle-aged man said seriously, without explaining too much why he was named Sanfune. Everyone present knew very well that the ancestors of the Mifune family never forgot the kindness of the ancestors of the Ishida family, in order not to ruin the teacher's reputation. This guy can be regarded as a first-class warrior in the Iron Country. Looking at each other, Ishida Sorikari nodded silently. He recognized the other party's strength. Since the other party has never forgotten the favor of his ancestors, he can't harm the other party. If the other party's strength is not enough, he absolutely does not want the other party to help the Ishida family share the burden. The ancestors actually set up a backup in the country of iron. Please come in with me. The old ancestor knows that his students and descendants will survive. He will be very happy. At the same time, after listening to the other party's words, Ishida Konkari was also taken aback by Ishida Xinkai's arrangement, and respected his ancestors even more, and then said with a pun and a slightly complicated expression, how did he know that even Ishida Xinkai himself did not expect that the student he had accepted would gain a foothold in the Iron Country? That kid can gain a foothold in the Iron Country even if he remains anonymous. In comparison, I'm actually worse than him. Sighing, Ishida Xinkai shook his head and said. Hearing what Ishida Dadong said just now, Ishida Xinkai also understood that the Mifune who is following Admiral in the Iron Country at this moment is probably the Mifune he knew in his previous life. At the beginning, I just thought the name was familiar, so I accepted the student. I didn't expect it to be a mistake. Ishida Xinkai continued to talk to himself. 70 years ago, he began to challenge the strong in various countries, hoping to strengthen himself, until he was tortured by Senju Hashirama, the patriarch of the Senju clan, and he stopped. The child named Mifune was rescued by him after killing a group of bandits in the Iron Country. Those thieves were actually raised by the son of a city lord in the Iron Country. In the end, they were all kinds of blood and troubles continued. Afterwards, they killed the city lord and his son by themselves. After chasing and killing him, he fled back to Tianjigwa with the girl in embarrassment. Recalling the bits and pieces of the past, Ishida Xinkai realized that it was her passion. It's not dead, it's still blooming, and you can still think about my side with one finger. I also forgive you for not coming to me for so many years, Ishida Xinkai sighed, and said to himself again. Ishida Xinkai and his wife felt guilty for many years when Mifune chose to break up in order to escort him and his wife away. Ishida Xinkai also understands why Mifune did not come to find him. Everyone has his own choice. Samurai and ninjas have different paths. Attention the edge warriors. Thinking of this, the images of first-generation Mifune and his old lady when they were young keep popping up in their minds. This is the most important memory of Ishida Xinkai in this world. Good boy, didn't you always want to be part of my family? Just wait. I will one day make the Iron Country into Ishida's family. After a pause, Ishida Xinkai withdrew from the memories. His eyes flickered, and he said with a serious face. And here, Ishida Daong was also a little surprised when he heard Ishida Sorikari's words. He heard that the ancestors of the Ishida family had descended, but in his opinion, it should be just a means to fool ordinary people. Of course, no matter what, they are the teachers of their ancestors after all. Without this ancestor of the Ishida family, there would be no ancestors of their own family, and naturally they would not exist, so they still respect this ancestor of the Ishida family very much. 47. The members of the Mifune family, led by Ishida Daong, bowed 3 times and bowed 9 times from the moment they entered the door, all the way to the gate of the shrine. Each took an ignited stick of incense. Ishida Daong did not rush in, but took the incense first and led the crowd to kneel down outside the shrine again. Lord Patriarch, the grandchildren of the 3 boats have bowed to you. Facing the shrine of Ishida Xinkai, smelling the refreshing scent of incense, Ishida Daong murmured reverently. After finishing speaking, thud thud thud, 3 bangs knocked their heads on the ground and went back and forth 3 times before getting up. At the same time, Ishida Xinkai directly received a system prompt that made him feel unbelievable. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice and get the incense value plus 3,000. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice and get the incense value plus 100. Ding. Accept the incense sacrifice and get the incense value plus 100. A series of hints appeared in Ishida Xinkai's mind, which made him startled. A 5-body prostration, and the rest is all fanatical worship? Just kidding. Ishida Xinkai's eyes widened. He never expected that the descendants of his students would be so respectful to him. This must be partly due to the influence of his students. You have to know that you only got 5 dedicated believers by giving benefits for various acting, and this directly gave away 1 for nothing, plus more than a dozen fanatical worshippers. I owe you too much. Thinking that his only student has been thinking about him, Ishida Xinkai lowered his head and said with a wry smile. Ishida Daong got up and received the incense candles in everyone's hands, but the tribesmen brought by Ishida Daong still stood on their knees. Patriarch Ishida, my ancestors had something to say to Ancestor Ishida, and I hope that only I can convey it from generation to generation. Ishida Daong looked at Ishida Sora and said to Ishida Sora with a serious face. It is not suitable for outsiders to know the last words of the ancestors. Even their own clan has only passed them down orally from successive families, and the clansmen are not clear, because the content of the words is too childish, which will damage the majesty of the ancestors. Hearing the other party's words, all the servants of the Ishida family frowned. The shrine is a clean place for the ancestors, and judging from the previous request for money, it is very likely that the ancestors of the Ishida family really lived in seclusion in this shrine. If the other party wants to make trouble, I am afraid that the ancestors will be displeased. Okay, since Lingzhu is a student of the family ancestor, you and I are naturally brothers, please. Ishida Sorikari nodded and agreed. If he had done it before, he would never have agreed, but now that he is in a state of planning, his eyes have also been improved. Knowing that the other party is definitely not here to make trouble, he did not refuse the other party's request. After all, on the way just now, everyone kowtowed 3 times and kowtowed 9 times. Everyone present could hear it clearly. It is absolutely impossible to do this without respect from the heart. Hearing that Ishida Xinkai agreed, Ishida Daong gave him a deep look and nodded. The rest of the people knelt outside the shrine, and Ishida Daong walked into the shrine alone holding more than 10 incense sticks. Respectfully planted the incense into the censer. Ishida Daong retreated and knelt in the hall. Lord Patriarch, next, there will be descendants and grandchildren who will relay the last words of the ancestors. Kneeling on the ground and speaking, Ishida Daong's eyes became complicated. Teacher and teacher's wife are well, living up to the expectations of the teacher. Mifune has become a first-class samurai. Knowing that the teacher founded the Ishida family, Mifune did not dare to cause trouble for the teacher, so he could only create his own family in the country of iron. The family emblem is Kikyo leaves, which means that our family will always be divided into Ishida family, whether you recognize it or not. I think so. I, Mifune, swear in the name of the samurai that future generations who inherit the name of Mifune will surely inherit the will of Ishida Mifune, and must lead the family back to protect the Ishida family forever. Ishida Datong finished his ancestor's last words word by word. At this moment, his expression became more complicated. Swearing in the name of a samurai is absolutely impossible for any samurai to renounce. It was already the third ship of the third generation, and he personally heard the last words of his grandfather, and he couldn't believe that his grandfather would say such a thing. After finishing speaking, Ishida Datong quickly put away the complicated eyes, took a deep breath, and his eyes became clear and serious. My lord ancestors, the unworthy students and descendants will return. I hope my lord ancestors will forgive me and accept me. Just as people were anxiously waiting, the resonant voice of Ishida Datong came from the shrine. What? Hearing the words from the shrine, the servants of the Ishida family all stared in surprise, thinking they had heard it wrong. However, the samurai outside also shouted, and the orderly voice resounded throughout the courtyard of Ishida's house in an instant. Ishida Sorikari also stared. He never thought that his ancestor's status would be so high in this samurai family, and he even regarded himself as a descendant of the Ishida family. If he hadn't heard Ishida Xinkai often mention his students guiltily when he was a child, he would have doubted whether this group of samurai were passed down from the old man's illegitimate children. And Ishida Xinkai was also stunned by these guys. Is this sending off grandchildren thousands of miles away? Mifune, you are too stubborn. Ishida Xinkai was a little bit dumbfounded, but he believed that what he said just now definitely came from his student's mouth. However, judging from the degree of belief of these guys, he knew that these warriors had inherited his student's single-mindedness. However, since you have let your descendants defect to me, then I must not let them be wronged. Pausing for a moment, Ishida Xinkai said solemnly with a twinkle in his eyes. System, are there any talents and props suitable for warriors? I can afford them. The next moment, Ishida Xinkai asked the system in his heart. The next moment, a black iron sword appeared in Ishida Shinkai's eyes. Zanpakuto, Senbenzakura. The initial state of Zanpakuto from Senbenzakura in the hands of Shinigami Captain Byakuya Kuchiki in the anime Shinigami can enhance the attack power and damage the target soul. The price is 300 divine power. Bonus, astralization. After fusing Zanpakuto, you can enter the Shurkai state by calling Zanpakuto's name, and you can directly get the Vice Captain level Ryatsu. 48. Zanpakuto. Zanpakuto? Are you kidding? There are Zanpakuto for sale? Why didn't I know? Ishida Xinkai looked at the items brushed out by the system. Her face turned into a liver color, and she asked the system with her eyes wide open. Zanpakuto exists, but because there are too many items, the ancestors need to specify the search, otherwise it is difficult to browse. The system immediately gave a reply, which almost made Ishida Xinkai bleed. But this thing is too cheap, right? It's only 300 spiritual powers. The corner of Ishida Shinkai's mouth twitched, and then he asked in disbelief, this is from Zanpakuto, it can directly attack the soul, and it is so cheap. You must know that the cheapest blood succession requires hundreds of thousands of spiritual powers, and wood style and the three pupils require thousands more. In comparison, Zanpakuto is so cheap that Ishida Xinkai finds it unbelievable. Because Zanpakuto is a prop and is unique, it can only be bound to one owner, but the blood successor limit is hereditary, and future generations have a chance to awaken the blood successor limit, so there will be differences in price. In addition, people in this world have weak soul abilities, and it is difficult to control the liberation of Zanpakuto. Under normal circumstances, ancestors may need to consume divine power to help users open Bankai on Zanpakuto. For Ishida Shinkai's inquiry, the system still quickly gave a detailed explanation. Uniqueness and secondary consumption? Ishida Shinkai's mouth twitched, finally understanding why Zanpakuto is so cheap. But it's right to think about it. A blood successor limit is enough to support a strong ninja family. As long as there are continuous descendants, it can be maintained. But Zanpakuto is different. Even if the owner dies, Zanpakuto will disappear with the owner. In comparison, Zanpakuto is not so cheap. And Ishida Xinkai recovered quickly. It's just you. After all, you are my own child. You can spend more spiritual power in the future. Looking at the Zanpakuto, Ishida Xinkai didn't hesitate any longer. Now that he doesn't have so much spiritual power, it's useless to think about it. And Zanpakuto, as a sword, is far stronger than those ninja swords, and can directly attack the soul. Of course, the most important thing is that there is also a system that comes with the ability to transform into a spirit. Ishida Xinkai remembers that in the world of Hokage, a guy named Kaido-dan made countless people helpless with just a spirit technique. The spirit form presented by this system is obviously the spirit in Shinigami that can only be entered by using the Yihan pill. Integrate. Is there a righteous soul pill? After a pause, Ishida Xinkai suddenly remembered something and asked hastily. Yihan pill. A prop research by the 12th Division Technology Development Bureau in the anime Shinigami, which can force the soul to leave the body, and the righteous soul inside can control the body to move. After the soul returns to the body, the righteous soul can be released. Pills are recycled and can be reused. The price is 20 divine power. Really have. Looking at that thing, Ishida Xinkai widened his eyes and said with joy, including the value of the incense that these boys offered me just now, it is enough to exchange for these things plus a blood jade. Then he set his eyes on Ishida Datong in front of him, with a distressed expression on his face. After all, I used to lament that I have a lot of divine power, but I didn't expect it to be gone so soon. Forget it. If that kid can remember me as a teacher, your future descendants will be my own children. Shaking his head, Ishida Xinkai put his heartache behind him. After all, he is his own family now, and he still treats himself with all his heart. Of course, Ishida Xinkai has nothing to hate. But isn't the blood jade a bit extravagant? After all, why don't I need it this time? Suddenly, Ishida Xinkai frowned, and the sudden poverty made him think carefully again. After all, only 10 points of spiritual power are needed for the advent of one's own consciousness, and the reason why the blood jade can have all the strength in life, and the drawn talent blood inheritance limit is only 20 points of spiritual power. According to the urine nature of the system, he guessed that there must be something he didn't see. System, check for me. Is there a cheaper way to let this Ishida Datong see me? Ishida Xinkai stared and said, he still remembered the system's reply just now. If he didn't ask, the system would definitely not take the initiative to mention it. I'm not smart enough at all, and I don't know how to help me share the pressure of poverty. After a pause, Ishida Xinkai muttered inwardly. At this moment, several things appeared in front of his eyes. Dreamlike and illusory. Ancestral Spirit's exclusive skill, divided into dreamlike and illusory. The price of the skill is 0 spiritual power. Like a dream. The dream that can make the ancestral spirit come to anyone within a radius of 10 kilometers from the shrine. Consumption per use, 10 divine power. Illusionary. It can make enemies entering the shrine or ancestral hall fall into the illusion of the ancestors. Consumption per use, 10 divine power. Ancestral spirit exclusive skills? Ishida Xinkai was a little surprised at the price of 0 spiritual power in front, and subconsciously saw a sentence. However, when Ishida Xinkai saw the subsequent usage consumption, he couldn't help scolding, damn it. But seeing that 10 points of divine power could be saved, Ishida Xinkai didn't say anything more. Exchange. Ishida Xinkai quickly selected a few items and gave an order to the system. Ding. The Zanpakuto, Senbenzakura, was successfully exchanged, consuming 300 points of spiritual power. You have 61 points of spiritual power remaining. Ding. Exchange, Yihan Pill. *1. Success, consumes 20 points of spiritual power. You have 41 points of spiritual power left. Ding. The Dreamlike. *1 was successfully exchanged, consuming 0 points of divine power. You have 41 remaining divine power. Following the system's prompt, the exchange was completed, and Ishida Xinkai's original 3-digit divine power was only 41 points left at this moment. And Ishida Xinkai did not hesitate. Target. Ishida Datong. Use Ruhuan. Spirit power -10. 49. Ishida Xinkai's divine power became 31. With Ishida Xinkai's thought, Ishida Datong found that the scene around her had changed. There are no more incense sticks around. The place where the eyes touch is the green mountains and green waters. The colorful clouds are fluttering, and the only thing that can be heard is the singing of birds and beasts from time to time. Is this an illusion? Ishida Datong's expression changed. The first thing he thought of was that he had been hit by an illusion. No, this is not an illusion, but your own spiritual world. The figure of Ishida Xinkai slowly appeared in front of Ishida Datong, along with his voice. Who are you? Looking at the figure of Ishida Xinkai, Ishida Dadong stepped back quickly, pressing his palm on the hilt of his waist. Although he didn't feel any hostility from Ishida Xinkai, he still looked at Ishida Xinkai warily. Am I not the ancestor of the Ishida family you worship? Ishida Xinkai smiled, and was not angry at the other party's unreasonableness. After all, this was the normal reaction of any samurai and ninja. If you really don't feel something like this, then there is really a ghost. The ancestor of the Ishida family? Ishida Dadong stared, and looked at Ishida Xinkai in astonishment. The portrait on the wall just now quickly overlapped with the figure in front of him, but he was still a little uncertain. When I met your grandpa for the first time, that kid was only 11 years old. He was the only one who died in the whole village. After saving him, that guy followed me barefoot for 3 days, crying and screaming. Accepted as a student by me, Ishida Xinkai pursed her lips, and the memories that had been dusty for decades were opened. Ishida Xinkai said with a smile. Hearing Ishida Shinkai's words, Ishida Datong's eyes widened immediately. He heard his grandfather mention this matter, but after mentioning it once, he probably felt ashamed, so he didn't say it again. Even if his family knew about this kind of thing, only he and his brothers and cousins who were kneeling outside the door, and they don't even necessarily remember it. You are really the ancestor of Ishida. Looking at Ishida Xinkai, Ishida Datong's breathing became heavy, and he knelt down directly after speaking. The unfilial sons and grandsons kowtow to the ancestors. According to his grandfather's legacy, they must return to the Ishida family when the Ishida family is in danger. Naturally, he will not violate it. This Ishida ancestor treats his ancestors like a brother and a father, and he is naturally serious. Some people regard Ishida Xinkai as their ancestor. Okay. Seeing Ishida Datong's respectful gesture, Ishida Xinkai nodded in satisfaction. I owed your grandpa back then, so I will pay you back now. This is a gift for you. As Ishida Xinkai said, a golden-handled long knife and a white pill floated out from the side. Bonus, target, Ishida Dadong. Ishida Xinkai murmured in his mouth. The things exchanged or extracted in the Ancestral Spirit Mall, after being bestowed by Ishida Xinkai, will be directly bound and fused with the target, and cannot be used by others. For example, Zanpakuto, bestowed by Ishida Xinkai, will be directly bound to Ishida Da. This is... Ishida Dadong looked at the two things floating in the air and called out, not knowing whether it was because the two things were frightened by the floating posture of the two things, or because they were wondering about the purpose of the things. Ishida Xinkai didn't explain, but just appeared in front of Ishida Dadong in an instant, and tapped his forehead lightly with his fingers. Spirit Power -1. This is a technique that Ishida Xinkai asked from the system when Ishida bravely crossed the line, which can consume a little spiritual power to transmit the knowledge, memory, and pictures that he wants to transmit to the other party. After that, Ishida Xinkai disappeared, and the surrounding scenes quickly returned to the appearance of the ancestral hall. Illusion? Ishida Dadong came to his senses, sniffing the strong scent of incense around him, and said a little bit disappointed. He thought that Ishida's ancestors really became the legendary ghosts and gods, and could show their spirits, because suddenly there were a lot of memories in his memory. Those memories were so real, as if he had experienced it personally. Thinking of the power of the thing called Zanpakuto in his memory, he couldn't help but his heart beat faster. But the next moment, the expression on Ishida Datong's face suddenly froze, because in front of him, there really was a knife and a white pill. Zanpakuto Senbenzakura and Yashikamura. Looking at the two things on the ground, Ishida Dadong exclaimed, because those two things were what he had just seen in the illusion. Ishida Dadong grabbed the Zanpakuto, and a feeling of two becoming one instantly surged in his heart. Your name, Senbenzakura? Looking at the Zanpakuto in his hand, Ishida Dadong asked according to the name he remembered. The next moment, Ishida Dadong seemed to see a long-haired samurai in a purple battle robe, as if he had heard his call, and turned around in the darkness to look at him. At this moment, he knew that his memory and what just happened were true. Thinking of the memory of Zanpakuto in his mind, Ishida Datong's body began to tremble. As a samurai, swords exist like life. Every samurai longs for a top-notch weapon, but there is a unique existence in front of him. Holding Zanpakuto in his hand, Ishida Dadong seems to have a feeling of sympathy. The great kindness of the ancestors, Ishida Dadong will never be forgotten. As long as Dadong is still alive, the enemy will never want to step into the door of Ishida's house. Originally, he sincerely obeyed the ancestral precepts. No matter what happened to the Ishida family, he had already prepared for the worst, but he never thought that he would get the favor of the legendary ancestor of the Ishida family without doing anything, which made Ben right Ishida Xinkai respected Ishida Dadong more and more sincerely. A series of bangs on the ground. Ishida Xinkai saw bloodline on the ground. You are the same as your grandfather. Ishida Xinkai curled her lips, as if seeing the child who was with her back then. She didn't stop her, but just sighed. When Ishida Dadong walked out of the shrine, everyone looked at him in astonishment. His forehead was bleeding from knocking, and even his own family couldn't do it. For a moment, the servants of the Ishida family felt ashamed. From now on, we will protect the clan of the Ishida family. We will never allow anyone in the Ishida family to be harmed until the last drop of blood is shed. Ignoring the astonishment of the people around him, Ishida Dadong came out and shouted loudly. At this moment, he even worships Ishida Xinkai more than everyone else. And at this moment, the leaves of the country of fire, Tsukumo, Tanoa's white fang has been handed over to you and other root members. The underground money exchange has failed. If the Ishida family on Tanoa's side is not removed, they will most likely become it is not the task of the village, but my personal request to bring down the land of rain. Root's leader, Danzo Assassin, was speaking seriously to a white-haired ninja in front of him. 50. Half a month later, Tianjigua's army soon came to the area of Sinong City, and the army of Sinong City had already been on guard on the city wall. The ordinary people hoped that the Ishidas would hold out, but the gentry had another idea entirely. They have lost too much land and shops, so they naturally hope that the army of Tianjigua can subdue Sinong City. Although they will have to spend a lot of money in exchange for those shops of their own, it is better than all falling into Ishida's house. Are you kidding me? The Ishida family sent so many people? Just relying on these people to resist the army of Odin's country? I think it's better not to have any hope. The Ishida family just swollen their faces to pretend to be fat. Now Tianjigua is going to send troops to suppress them. Of course they are afraid. After all, how can a family beat the Diaming Mansion? That's right, let me say that we should just open the city gate and surrender. Sinong City is not owned by Ishida's family in the first place, so why should we listen to them? Some wealthy gentry have dispatched some money-grubbing people to start spreading the glare in the city of Sinag. People panicked for a while, and even the ordinary people who originally admired the Ishida family were a little suspicious. Even the ordinary people who have only some superficial beliefs have begun to waver. However, some old people in Sinong City couldn't help sighing when they heard these rumors. They knew that the land of land was brought down by the ancestors of the Ishida family. It was because of the good relationship with the Tanaka family and to prevent internal strife in the family. Let the Tanaka family manage Tianjigua. At the beginning, as long as the ancestor of the Ishida family said a word, he could directly decide who the next generation daimyo of Tianjigua would be. Of course, these are not what they experienced personally, but what they heard orally from the older ones. Only these young people would really think that this country belongs to the Tanaka family. In fact, the Tanaka family is just managing it on their behalf. Originally, the ancestors of the Ishida family died like a lamp went out, and no one would care about what the Ishida family could do. But now that the ancestors of the Ishida family have returned, the Tanaka family has closed the Ishida family to a dead end, and naturally they will take back Tianjigua from the Tanaka family. At this moment, Sinong City is 20 miles away. How is it? What is the city like now? Tanaka Shinji, the contemporary daimyo of the Iron Country who personally led the army, asked the military advisor beside him. His Royal Highness, the Ishida family only sent a young Jōnin named Ishida Maimong to sit in the town, and now the people in Sinong City are panicked. The military advisor wearing a cloth cap next to him said with a smile. Obviously they had already communicated with the gentry inside in advance. Hehe, the Ishida family is really just a ninja family. They don't know how to win Shinamen at all. Those ordinary people are just ordinary people. It's just that there are too many people. What's the use of subduing their hearts? It's the rich and powerful gentry who can really influence Sinong City. Hearing the military advisor's answer, the young daimyo Shinji Tanaka said with a sneer. People say that he was supported by the nobles of Tianji country. Although those guys are gnashing their teeth at the Ishida family, they dare not provoke them at all. It was his decision to crusade against Ishida's family, and everyone was not optimistic about it. But who knows, in fact, he has already made an agreement with the people of Konoha Shinobi Village in the Country of Fire, and the two sides will split up and start a crusade against the forces of the Ishida family. At that time, all the benefits will be his alone. In exchange, it must be attached to Konoha's control. Shinji Tanaka knew very well that after the war, the national strength of the country of Tanaka would definitely be empty, and it would be a great thing to be able to attach to Konoha, the country of fire, so he naturally agreed wholeheartedly. Get ready. Beat the drums, march. Taking a deep breath, Shinji Tanaka was ready to pick the fruits of victory and said solemnly immediately. Soon, 100,000 troops marched towards Sinong City mightily. Similarly, Ishida's family already knew about the movement of Tanakuni's army. My lord, according to the movements of the Daming Mansion's army, the enemy will be able to approach the city before dark. I guess they will be careful to attack Sinong City at night when they are ready. The samurai from the Land of Iron all compare with the Grandmaster to lead the army to fight, and Ishida Dadong directly judged the opponent's thinking. After accepting the Zanpakuto bestowed by Ishida Xinkai and fighting with a few tribesmen brought along, he really understood the horror called Senbonzakura. Especially for the soul, he has experimented with some livestock. Once the legs and feet are scratched, he calculates to cure them with medical ninjutsu, and the injured legs and feet of those livestock still dare not touch the ground. Such a magical weapon naturally attracted the attention of other warriors. Looking at Zanpakuto and Ishida Dadong was like seeing a peerless beauty. After knowing that it was a gift from Ishida's ancestors, everyone was excited, looking forward to being the next one to be able to the lucky one who was summoned alone by the ancestors. And those samurai who originally came together with Ishida and still had some objections to being included in the Ishida family were completely convinced by the Ishida family, and they also believed in the existence of this legendary ancestor. Hearing Ishida Datong's words, everyone nodded in agreement. Indeed, for the siege of a city, especially Sinong City with only one gate, the soldiers guarding the city during the day are exhausted physically and mentally. The spirit of attacking the city at night is undoubtedly the most suitable. This is not surprising, but I heard that the daimyo prefecture applied for ninja employment from various countries before dispatching troops. I am worried that there will be Jōnin mixed in the army. Ishida Sorikari nodded, then frowned, but said calmly, Ninja. Hearing this, everyone frowned, and even Ishida Dadong stopped talking. As long as the ninja can fully release ninjutsu, the siege of the city is indeed much faster than the ordinary army. So I'm going to take the initiative. Ishida Sorikari glanced at the crowd and continued. You may not know that in the past half a month, there have been 20 more Jōnin in the clan. Seeing that everyone was about to speak, Ishida Sora raised the corner of his mouth and continued.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.